Then we will call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda, review the agenda for removal or adjustment of items.
Nothing from me.
Alrighty. Overview Zoom meeting, operation and procedures, rules of participation, mute microphones, recognized by the chair to speak. Public forum. Anything on the that is, yeah. Opportunity for people to speak of anything that is not on the agenda.
Oh, Jessica.
I was just wondering if there was going to be a meeting to talk about the COVID relief money that would be coming into the town and about what sort of spending priorities we might have for those resources. Thank you.
I don't believe that we've been informed of that as of yet. I know Valerie spoke to me that there was money coming, but I don't think we've had a discussion on where that's going. Valerie?
Right. We're all waiting to find out what the rules are going to be, what the restrictions, what the eligibility of the funding will be. We understand that there needs to be some sort of connection or nexus with COVID-19, but we don't know what that's going to look like. So we're waiting.
And it'll probably just be discussed in a regular select board meeting, correct? Or
Right.
would we do a special meeting?
It all depends. I mean, if it depends on the window that we have. If it's a short window, then we might have to. Otherwise, I would plan on a regular select board meeting.
Okay.
Probably depends on how complicated it's going to be, whether we need to have a special meeting for it or something that we can fit in with our regular business.
Yeah.
Are you happy with that answer for now?
I am. I was just excited because it looks like a lot of the money will be earmarked for water and other infrastructure. So that would fit in well with a lot of the projects that you all have been working on for this last year or so. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Does Sally have her hand up? Yeah.
Yep.
Sally and John.
Sally?
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I talked with Fred Baser. I emailed with him and talked about the revolving loan fund for folks who about Bristol Community Solar. And he said to contact and go from there. And what's that? So I'm just wondering, we already also spoke with National Bank of Middlebury, and they're willing to offer loans to people who are going, but I just want to know, because there's our for high, what do you call it? High credit rating. And so we need some for less of a high credit rating as well. So revolving loan funds seem like a good idea. So I just wonder what the next steps are for me to look into that so that I can let people know if that's an available option or not.
Let's have a conversation with Jen and Fred because folks would need to submit applications. I think Fred laid it out pretty well in his outline about what would be expected in terms of the loan committee's ability to review applications.
Great. So it doesn't have to go through another select board meeting. It would just be connect with Jen and Fred and stuff like that. Yeah.
To summarize what Sally is referring to, the inquiry was made whether folks who are interested in subscribing to the Bristol Community Solar would be eligible, or if the revolving loan fund would be a resource for them. And typically the revolving loan fund has been used for larger scale funding applications, and these might be a lot of small applications. And so it would be something new for the revolving loan fund to deal with administratively. So I would think it's available. I think we just need to work out the logistics administratively, and then the committee would meet and make the recommendations to the select board.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
John, go ahead. You're muted, John.
Sorry.
There you go.
Thanks. This is in regards to the Cane Hills Solar Project. I know that's on the agenda. So this is not about sort of the details of the project as much as it is about the town's standing, as I think has automatic standing in the Public Utility Commission process for a certificate of public good, which is what these sorts of projects need to go forward. And I just want to make sure the town does what it needs to do, if anything, to have an active status in that certificate of public good, because as you probably know, alternative energy projects have a very low sort of zoning review threshold, low or no review for zoning bylaws. So it would be the certificate of public good process is our chance as a town to make sure that whatever issues might be on our minds have a venue to be expressed and whatever. So I just want to ask if the select board has, contemplated having an active role or any role in that certificate of public good process. Thanks.
I don't have any comment, so because I don't know, John. That would be the honest answer from me.
So I would just point out the select board, and I've reviewed the project some, and again, I don't want to get into the merits of it or demerits, but I think it looks good to me. I mean, it looks like an interesting way to use that land over there. But I just, the town it's not going to go through a zoning review, right? So, it is adjacent to the public water supply. And I've had great positive contacts with the developers about my concerns around that. And I'm very positive about that. But that's just one example of, the town should go into, it's a 30-acre light industrial development, basically. Yeah, it's solar and that's great, but it's still a big 30-acre industrial development. And we should make sure as a town, I would hope the town and the select board is the mechanism for this, because you're our spokespeople, you're our representatives at the Public Utilities Commission, that you at least, develop whatever questions after tonight's presentation that you have, and if necessary, play an active role in that PUC process. I think, it is a major development, and I think it's a major good development myself, but from what I understand at the moment. So that's great, but still the town should be prepared to participate if it feels it's necessary.
John, to answer your first question, this is the first time the select board is receiving the information in an official way. So they haven't really had an opportunity to discuss it yet.
Valerie, if I may, hi everybody, I'm Nathaniel. We did present to the select board back in January. I'm with Green Peak Solar. I would just say that we're absolutely totally open and would be willing to help if there's anything we can do to help the town participate in that process. John, I think as you mentioned, I believe it's at this point it's your statutory right to be to participate in the process. But if there's anything we can do to kind of help you guys understand that PUC process, we're happy to do so. We welcome your participation there, and we also welcome this as a venue if there are comments or requests that we can incorporate into our filing. We're happy to take those on in this arena, and then make sure that they're incorporated into the CPG process and kind of show you how that make sure you are confident that those things have been incorporated, so that there'll be actual requirements of the project. So I think it's really good to do at a minimum. We really welcome these arenas because it can be a lot of open dialogue. It can be less of a clunky process, but I also agree with John, having the town participate at the CPG level is something that we would welcome and are happy to help facilitate if there's things we could do.
And I would just hasten to add,
Mr.
I don't know,
Mr. Chairman.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I think this conversation is the next article. This public forum is not for this. It's been over 5 minutes. Don, I appreciate it, but
It's all right. I'm cool with that.
I think all these questions can be in next one.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Joe.
Anything under public forum that anybody would like to discuss? Seeing none, we'll move on to regular business. Green Peak Solar, Lathrop property project presentation.
Cool. So thank you guys again. I'm Nathaniel. I'm here with Chris Cadwell from Green Peak Solar. This is intended to be kind of an update to the initial presentation we gave to the town back in January. Since that time, we've actually gone ahead and filed the certificate of public good petition. We've shared those materials, with the town directly, as well as they're available on the EPUC website. But just thank you guys for your time. Again, just kind of reminding everybody where the project is located. It's at the top of Cane Hill Road. It's just south of town, kind of on the other side of the river, on the plateau above the river. The next slide is this is kind of a more detailed view. This is the site plan that was filed with our certificate of public good. As you can see, the solar array will take up the majority of the field at the top of the hill. The solar project transformer and interconnection equipment will be located in the center where the road, you can see a little turnaround in the center. We're also proposing a battery energy storage facility that will be located in the upper left side of the project. That'll have its own separate transformer with secondary oil containment. And we're planning to access the project off of Cane Hill Road, so utilizing the existing access. And we're planning to bring the power line up the hill. There's a little green swath where the power line would come up the hill from an existing pole on Pump House Road. So as John mentioned, the project is next to the Bristol Surface Water Protection Area. So this is over here on the right side of the project. We have not proposed to locate any facilities within that protection area. In addition, John brought up a great comment and just point that asked if we would be willing to not use any herbicides on the project, which we feel like is actually a great point. Really, none of these projects need herbicides, frankly, and ones that are located near a river and near a town drinking well certainly don't. So we're actually incorporating that language into our filing, and are voluntarily not going to be using any herbicides on the project. The secondary oil containment I mentioned for the transformers is really kind of a belt and suspenders. The transformers use a biodegradable oil, but the secondary oil containment is a vault that sits underneath the transformer that in the event of any kind of spill, the oil is contained and doesn't enter into the groundwater. Unless you guys have other questions on that topic, we can move on. So we just have a couple of slides showing you just some representative viewpoints of the project area to kind of get folks bearings. So this is a view kind of right on Main Street, kind of across the road from the east side of the access to Shaw's, kind of looking across. The pump house would be on your left, and the project is up on a plateau. The next slide is from the town offices, looking straight down South Street. And again, the project is located on the plateau on the other side of the river. And the last photo is a photo from the Village Creamy Stand. Again, this is kind of looking across the river, across the Lathrop Band Mill, and you can see the plateau on the other side. We talked about this briefly before, but the project will sell its power and renewable energy to the state, which is part of the Vermont Standard Offer Program, which is a state-run RFP for procuring renewable energy for utilities in the state. This was actually the lowest cost solar project in the 2020 RFP. So we feel really good that this project is setting the benchmark for the most affordable renewable energy in the state. And in turn, it'll that benefit will go to all Vermonters through, hopefully reducing rates for electricity, especially renewable electricity, through the life of the project. As we mentioned, we're proposing a battery energy storage project here as well. The purpose of the battery is to be primarily to discharge during peak hours to reduce the peak loads on the system. This in turn translates to savings for GMP, and which translates into savings for Vermont ratepayers. The battery will also hopefully help to improve reliability by reducing those peak levels, which will benefit Green Mountain Power as well as folks that are served off of that Hewitt Road substation as well. Lastly, we're anticipating both projects, the solar and the battery storage, will generate about $24,000 a year in property taxes. That's both municipal and state education, and that's for both projects. I believe it's about 19,000 estimated for the solar project and about 5,000 estimated for the energy storage project.
Nate, can I ask a quick question about the battery?
Yeah, sure.
In terms of it's hard to tell from the plan view in terms of how big that part of the project will be.
Yep.
I can see it, in terms of the relative size of the panels. How tall is it? Like a large structure? Is it a building? What is that?
Yeah, so they're effectively the size of a storage container. So you're looking at basically 4 storage containers there. We're proposing to use a Tesla. It's a Tesla system. Their containers tend to be a little bit smaller, but think of it as the size of basically a 40-foot shipping container in height and in dimensions.
So with the height, are the panels the same height of that, or are the panels lower than that?
So the panels are generally a little lower, depending on the topography, how the racks kind of float. The panels can be taller than that. Well, the panels, as we mentioned before, are a single axis tracker. So they track the sun east to west throughout the day. When they're at their highest tilt in the morning or the evening, they'll be taller than that.
Okay.
At kind of the baseline middle of the day or throughout most of the day, they'll be lower than that because they're flat.
Is there any consideration in terms of trees or plantings around the battery area, or is it something you're not looking at just because of the amount of trees around the perimeter of the plateau?
Yeah,
I imagine, looking at your photos, we can see into the plateau now, but most times, or at least half the year, or probably more, you actually can't because of the tree coverage around the perimeter.
Yeah, that's right. So we have not proposed any screening with the initial filing.
Okay.
That said, we have presented the project to the Planning Commission, and one of the requests they made was hey, look, if this thing gets built and some screening, would be really beneficial, do we have the opportunity to do that later? And so what we've done is we've actually incorporated into our filing a commitment for a post-commissioning or post-construction site visit, whereby really anybody could show up and we'll talk about it. And if there's additional screening that would help, and if that's specific to the battery energy storage or it's specific to, portions of the solar project, there'll be a venue and an opportunity after the project is complete to evaluate it. And we feel like that's often the most effective way for us. We're not planting trees that aren't necessary. And also it gives people the opportunity to actually see what it looks like and place screening, if any, more effectively.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Nate.
Yeah. So just some other outreach we've done to other organizations, committees in the town. We've presented a couple times to the Energy Committee. A request they made was that we share the generation data with schools for educational purposes. that's something we've incorporated as a project commitment. And all of these commitments can be found in, there's an exhibit to my testimony, which gets incorporated into the CPG process that lists all of the things that we're committing to in this process. So happy to share that document specifically, or happy to point that out in the filing we've shared with the town. We've also had some discussions with the fire department. My business partner reached out to Brett LaRose, explained the standards that these projects will need to meet. And I think most importantly, we're staying in touch and going to be offering training, safety training for both the solar project and the battery project once we get closer to operations. In terms of residents, we sent out a letter to all of the abutting properties in January before we filed the 45-day notice. They also got copies of the 45-day notice. As a result of that, we've had some discussions with a landowner who owns the piece at the top of Cane Hill Road, so closest in proximity to the project. And we're in touch with them around some questions they have around shared access using the same road. We've also been in touch with John, who had the great comment about the herbicide restriction. John has also brought up the concept of a solar loop trail around the project, and he's put us in touch really recently with Porter Knight from the Bristol Trail Network to explore the possibility of a trail around the project, which frankly we're really excited about. So recognize you guys have a ton of stuff on your agenda. Just following up on John's comment initially, we welcome your participation both here and in the CPG process. And if you guys have any questions or comments or things that you'd like us to incorporate into our CPG filing, we're here to listen, and we're here to take your comments and incorporate them into the project.
Nate, I have a quick question about the taxes. Is that, if I recall correctly, the state of Vermont sets those or figures out what the calculation is? Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So for the education taxes, there's a fixed amount that each project pays per kilowatt, and then for the municipal portion of the taxes, the state has a published methodology where they have a model that was put out by Sandia Labs, which calculates a value for the solar project. And the main driver for that is the power purchase agreement price. So this project's, the taxes are actually lower than some projects that have been done historically. And that's because the solar PPA is so much lower. And therefore the value of the project, the net present value of the cash flows coming off of the project are lower. So to answer your question though, yeah, the state pretty much has defined methodologies that they provide to assessors to do the valuation.
Right. My understanding is that assessment won't go up.
Right.
It stays the same. Right.
Correct. It's fixed. It won't go up, and also it won't go down.
Right.
There's been a lot of argument with these projects that it's a finite lifetime. The contract is a finite life. As the project gets older and older, there's less and less life to it. It depreciates. So in theory, the taxes should go down. But what the state has done is they've said, we're going to fix this for the life of the project for 25 years at this rate to simplify it.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Nate, I have one more question. Will Bristol Solar LLC be the landowner?
Yes.
Okay.
Nate, can you give us an overview of the process going forward and the timeline?
Yeah, absolutely. So the process going forward is, I guess it's what day, the 31st, Chris, help me out. So in 2 days is the initial status conference with the Public Utility Commission. And that's where we set a schedule for the proceeding. And so I can share with you that proposed schedule. But basically what we're proposing is, the way the process works is we're proposing right now, the Public Utility Commission isn't doing site visits. We think that can be really important. We're trying to kind of offer one and get one into the process for parties that are that are interested. But then typically there are rounds of what's called discovery, where participants in the process can ask us questions, and we have the opportunity to respond. And then once the discovery is done, basically either the result of those questions ends up in kind of agreements or commitments, like we really try to do throughout these processes. In which case they kind of get memorialized and go in front of the commission for a decision. Or if the parties to the case can't agree. So for example, if the Agency of Natural Resources said there was a problem here and they didn't, for whatever reason, they didn't want the project, that would then basically each of the parties would present the information and testimony, and then the Public Utility Commission would have to decide what to do. It's probably going to take, my guess is 6 months, kind of at a minimum, from here moving through the process. And I think that the PUC really welcomes, comments. If the town wants to file comments, like in the form of a letter, that's oftentimes one way that things happen. But I'd be happy to share with you guys the proposed schedule, and then I can also put our council in touch with you guys to explain kind of the process of how you would move to intervene in the proceeding to become a formal party. But as John mentioned, generally the commission wants towns to be able to participate and not feel like they were cut out of a process. So yeah, that's kind of in generalities how it moves forward, but we're happy to help you guys. And also happy to, if you have questions or concerns, like we're always happy to come back and explore those in this venue as well. And make sure that what we agree to here is memorialized in our CPG, or in some cases we can do a separate memorandum of understanding, which is an agreement between the project and the town. But our thing generally is it's easier to agree to it and have us voluntarily put it in the CPG. It just streamlines everybody's process, and as long as we can get you guys comfortable that it's real and binding, we feel like that's the most streamlined outcome for everybody.
Speaker, I got a question.
Go ahead, Joel.
Nate, have you been working with our water department or water operator, VTUMS, and how much is the battery storage area? Is that in our source protection plan area of our water source?
So no, we have not been in touch with your water operator. Be happy to do so. I believe Valerie CC'd me, or I believe they were CC'd on an email from Valerie about this topic earlier today. So we're happy to engage, and like if there are additional project commitments that we can make, we're happy to do so. So happy to engage with them. In reading I think it was a document from 2018. It looked like there was some questions.
Yeah, I have it here in my hands, and I was just wondering.
Yep. Yes, there's discussion there about use of glyphosate, agreement with the Hill Farm. So hopefully our no herbicide, commitment is consistent with that. And then to answer your question, the battery energy storage is kind of in the top left of the picture here.
Right.
And,
I see that.
The SPA there's kind of like two red blobs over on the far right side of the picture. So
not really that clear.
Yeah, they're not terribly clear. Chris, maybe you zoom in.
I can't zoom in actually.
Well, I guess my question is if the battery storage areas if those were in the source protection area, could they be moved? I won't say off site, but to another section of the.
Yeah, so they are almost as far away from the source protection area as we can make them. They're not within it, and and it would be difficult to move them much further away, in terms of their physical location.
I'm gonna try to zoom in here
That would be great.
if it's helpful. So is that zoomed in? And
There's
can you see
not-
my mouse?
Green.
Not
Chris, you stopped. There you go.
okay. So
Yeah.
can you see
A
my
little better.
mouse?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the battery storage over here in the top left. And then I'm going to trace with my mouse the edge of the groundwater source protection limit area. So it's a very big area to the south and to the east of this, but this is just the corner of it here.
Mhm.
And as you can see, we've not proposed to build anything in the area. So we're not only is the battery not close to it, but nothing is in it. And as Nathaniel said, if we would be happy to formally commit to language saying that nothing would be in there. It is not our intention to have anything be in there.
I guess I don't think that's up to us 5 on the board. I think that's more, we have to discuss that with our operator and A&R, and our engineer, water source engineer, to whether groundwater could be contaminated if you had a likelihood of an oil spill at the oil battery or an acid spill.
Yeah. So what would be best? Should we follow up with your operator and Valerie directly? And then we have been in touch with A&R as well. We could probably loop them in to that discussion.
Yeah. Valerie, what is this? I mean, the Sprague Geoscience, did they do this in May of 2018 for the town?
Yes, and they're getting ready to update it in April, and we expect to have an updated plan in early May.
Maybe we should bring them on board for this project just to look it over, let their
Sure.
eye through it, and what's the rest of the board think?
I know that the batteries look though like they're way over where the house was.
Yeah, it does look like we're Foreign's house.
That's right. Yep.
And so they're a good, if that's a 30-acre lot, they're a good, probably close to 1,000 feet from that wellhead protection.
What is it, the other one, this other, at the end of that?
This is a transformer here, which also has secondary containment. But it's
I guess that one would I be concerned if that was in the wellhead protection.
Yep. And it's not.
It's not.
Yep.
Okay.
the wellhead protection is
Yeah.
all the way on the western edge here.
It's
Yeah, I'm
on the
guessing it's a
outside,
good
it's on
400.
the outside of the fence, Joel. The wellhead protection's on the
Yes, I
outside.
see the fence line. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Well, we're happy to, as I said, Valerie CC'd us on, or CC'd your operator on an email with a question about this to me earlier this afternoon. So we'll follow up with them directly and be in touch with you, Valerie. And happy to loop A&R in. And as Chris said, we have no intention of building anything. I don't know we certainly haven't proposed anything in the SPA. We have no intention of changing things later and putting something there in the future. So if you or your operator has other requirements of it, we're happy to incorporate that into our CPG.
So the 30-acre parcel, you're doing somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 25 acres of solar panels?
Yeah, the acreage is somewhere on here. I believe it's
So
close.
this is a considerably larger parcel or solar farm than the one here in the landfill.
Yeah, this is 2.2 megawatts AC, and I believe the landfill is 500 kilowatts AC.
Okay. And these will be pile driven, not on cement blocks?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Hey Val, is Alan the engineer that's redoing the plan, or is it the ones that did it before?
The ones that did it before, Cindy Craig.
I just think it wouldn't hurt to get them and Cyrus just to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah, Michelle, you're up. Yeah. So I think get Sprague's opinion on it and say what they think.
Any other questions from the board? Are you all set then?
John's
I guess
got his
one more-
hand up.
I have one more picker when you let that other person go.
I can't see it. I can't see anybody else right at the moment, so
Okay, I'll ask mine then quickly. Nate, you said that you weren't going to use any herbicide. So what's your game plan to keep the vegetation down through the summer, kind of like they do in Vigens, and let the sheep go?
So I would love to do sheep. Sheep can be difficult depending on what lender we would use for financing. Some are comfortable that sheep aren't going to chew on stuff and rub on stuff and break the panels or do damage, and others aren't as comfortable. So that's something that using sheep is tough for us to commit to, but it's something that we certainly believe works really well. Our current assumption would be to just mow it once or twice a year. Mowing though is expensive, and sheep are a lot less expensive. So that's our preferred route, but currently we would plan on for certain mowing it.
Okay, thank you.
John, did you want to say something?
Just a point of information, you guys are wondering about, on that site plan we were looking at, the groundwater supply comes from the east off the map underground, sort of along the river. It expresses itself at the wellhead there, or at the spring. It's really a spring. On that map where the land bumps up the sort of north east corner of that property, that big open field, the topography tilts towards the water source and the pump house. So that was one of the bases of my concerns for anything that might be put on the surface flowing topographically downhill towards the river right at the well and pump house. So that was one of my concerns. The other is, if you remember when we went through a lot of back and forth over this land some years ago, we learned that approximately at times of the year, about half the flow of the New Haven River side slips through this pork chop piece of property that is this site, and re-enters the river just above the South Street Bridge, or I'm sorry, the Hewitt Street Bridge, as springs and seeps. So since it's just a big gravel pile, my other concern was anything put on there is eventually going to filter down into that flow, that approximately half of the river that side slips through that site and re-enters the river at a very important spot for local fish that use those seeps over there. So anyway, those are my concerns. And, the groundwater under that site is basically east to west and a little to the south, if you're wondering. I think that's what you were talking about. So anyway, just a point of information.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I guess I'll follow up on John's. Nate, there's no what am I looking for the word? Plans on that bank that, as John says, when you start at the pump house, if you walk straight up to that height of that land, it's probably 100 feet, kind of almost straight up, but not quite. And there's all kinds of trees there. There's no plans of taking those trees off, right, on that slope?
No, nope. The only trees that we would need to cut for the project are a narrow strip to bring the power up the hill. Otherwise, we're planning to leave all of the vegetation around the field, the existing trees, intact.
Okay. Because that's what those trees really hold that bank in.
Absolutely. And they also really help to screen the project, especially in the summertime.
Yes.
So we certainly have no interest in taking those down.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
I'll just add, Peter, what Sally said about educational piece for that. If some of you historians around, that was the second site for the new Union High School. It's over on Airport Drive now, back in 1963. They were going to build a high school on that flat piece of land, but they couldn't. The bridge was going to be more than the high school to build, so they ended up buying the airport property. For a little piece of history for you people.
Alrighty. Nate, are you all set?
Yeah, thank you guys very much for your time. Much appreciated.
Alrighty.
Thank you, Nate.
we are going to move on. Emerald Ash Borer Strategic Management Plan Presentation. Alex.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm going to share my screen. I have a quick presentation, and hopefully we'll leave time for questions and answers. Yeah, we'll get this going here. So let's see. All right. The Emerald Ash Borer Committee is doing just a little presentation. This is a small presentation to complement the written plan that's been submitted to the select board and is in a draft form right now. So we're kind of looking for some feedback, and so this is just meant to put some visuals to that plan as well. So the Emerald Ash Borer beetle, as seen here, is an invasive species that came to Vermont in 2018, and then later was confirmed in Bristol in 2019. It's a really small insect. It's really hard to detect. It's about the size of a dime. It only affects ash trees. It's originally from Asia, and so all the ash trees up here and in other parts of the United States have no defense mechanism or anything against the beetle, so it kind of just flourishes here. Relatively speaking, it acts quickly as far as how fast it can sort of kill a tree, basically. It can only take a few years to show sort of an infestation, and then quickly after that, it can pretty much decimate an ash tree population. So there's more information again in the plan, but this is just meant to be kind of like a quick overview. So the spread of the Emerald Ash Borer beetle has really been assisted or enhanced by human sort of transportation of firewood and lumber. So that's how you can kind of see on the map there that the original first confirmation in Vermont was in Orange County, and this map is from earlier today. I just updated it. So yeah, you can tell it's spread really quickly, and so humans moving logs and firewood really helps it. Although it does already, the adult insect can spread 20 kilometers just on its own. Also, you can see pictured here kind of what it might look like if you had a chunk of firewood. It's got some S-shaped galleries. That's where the larvae kind of feed on the ash tree itself. So yeah, it's spreading very quickly. It is confirmed in Bristol. You can kind of tell just on the map that we're right in the red spot there. So let's move on. Some of the reasons or some of the hazards, I guess, related to this invasive species is that really they can like quickly move through a tree and leave standing dead limbs just kind of there, which are really susceptible to falling down in high winds. The whole tree becomes really vulnerable and a hazard to falling. In addition, just the fact that eventually losing ash trees affects the sort of village canopy and then the biodiversity in the whole area. So to the committee. So this committee was formed to come up with a management plan for the town of Bristol. Started in 2020 in the fall. We were trained by the state of Vermont. And the first step was collecting data on the ash trees in Bristol. So committee members, volunteers went around and we kind of parceled up the town and went and basically collected data on all of the ash trees that were in the public right of way in the area. So lots of ash trees in the Bristol area. That's by no means a complete list or complete catalog, I should say. There's likely more, but it's a small group. So we prioritize the village when sort of doing this identification process. leading us to winter 2020. That's when we kind of collected all the data, especially for the village, and wrote up a draft of a plan, and kind of coming up with a recommendation of what to do over the next couple of years in Bristol to manage this invasive species. So basically the takeaway from the written plan, the conclusion that we came to is that the best strategy would be to remove the ash trees within the village area while they're still alive, and replace them soon after. After the removal is complete, replacement planting will be identified using this principle of right tree, right place. And there would be input from the town tree warden. The property owners would have a voice as well, and the committee as well would be involved in that. Furthermore, there is treatment options for an ash tree. I didn't include it just because I'm not as educated as some of the other committee members are. So if we have questions, I'll definitely throw it to them. But to summarize, you can inoculate an ash tree, which basically prevents the insect from surviving after it consumes the tree. So the insect eats the tree after it's been inoculated, and then the insect dies. If you keep inoculating the tree like every 2 years, like it's recommended, that tree won't die from emerald ash borer. But you do need to continuously, provide that inoculation. It doesn't heal the tree, and it won't stop the emerald ash borer beetle from sort of arriving once you stop inoculating. Okay, so some of the next steps would be to complete a public information session over Zoom with a presentation, a little bit longer and more in-depth and better than this one. And then we'd formally submit a written plan to the state of Vermont. And the program is longer term. The plan is written for 3 years, but in general, there needs to be every year sort of a reevaluation of the list of trees in the village and which trees pose the most hazard and therefore move up the list of trees that need to be removed. So members of the committee will sort of be still on the hook for every year kind of reanalyzing the trees and how they're doing and how fast EAB is sort of progressing. Okay. So that's where I want to stop. I know we got a tight schedule tonight, and I do want to offer opportunity for questions and answers from different committee members. And so I will do that now. I'll keep my screen up in case I need to go back. But yeah, anybody can feel free to ask.
Alex, I have a couple questions. You guys talked about taking down the ash trees now. What happens to the point if we get rid of all the ash trees or they're killed, we remove them? What do the beetles adapt or do they die out? What do we know about them at that point?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, once the trees are removed, the beetles don't pose a risk to any other tree that we have here in Bristol or any others that I'm aware of. So yeah, we won't displace them and then they'll start feeding on maple trees or anything like that. So if we take down an infested tree, the treatment options, there's a couple of them that could work. You could turn that tree into wood chips that sufficiently sort of does the job to get rid of the remaining larva that's in the wood. You can also burn it and chop it up into wood stove size logs and burn it in your wood stove. That also gets rid of the remaining larva. The main thing that we recommend and the state recommends and everybody recommends is to keep the ash wood where it is, to not transport it around the state or let somebody else grab it and take it wherever. So it's sort of a manage where it relies. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then the second question is you're talking about, replacing, if you take them, replacing them with another tree. Now, I know you guys have some grant funds, but eventually I assume the town's going to have to to budget money in order to replant all those trees? Because I'm assuming there's not going to be grant funds enough to do that.
Yeah, I believe that is something that's sort of on the table. I know that there is grant funds available to initially replant, but that's something that the committee is sort of contemplating and discussing as far as sort of how far can we go until we have to start dipping into other funds, and anybody else can jump in and take it from me.
Yeah, I can step in a little bit. A key to being successful in applying for some of these grants is having a plan in place. So this will be an important first step there. So far in recent years, there have been grants offered every year. And I suppose as more plans get adopted, and this continues to be identified as a public safety concern, that grants will continue to be available. I also want to mention that in this past budget cycle, we did budget funds in anticipation of this coming along. In the recreation, in the town parks section of the budget, there's $5,000 for parks, for trees in the parks, tree work, tree maintenance. And also in the public works budget, there's $6,000 for tree work, which quite likely would involve hiring contractors for tree removal, especially if it's in the road right of way and there are power lines in the area. And because ash trees, especially if they're closer to being dead, they're more hazardous. So, and they require professional removal.
Okay.
Alex, can I ask a question? How many trees are we talking about? I know there was a tree inventory done a few years ago in Bristol. Was that of any help to you guys in identifying where they are and how many you're looking at?
Yeah, I think the 2014 tree study, is that what you're, yeah, so
Yeah.
that was certainly helpful as a guide starting this process. Yeah, it kind of gives a nice frame of reference for sort of the whole scope of the canopy within Bristol. So on the written plan, there's a total of 20 trees in the village that have been identified as trees that probably within the next 3 years would need to be removed and replaced. Obviously, there's a lot more trees within the whole area of Bristol. So it's something we're not considering as like the parks, like Valerie said, that might be in a different budget or whatnot. But yeah, in general, within the town area, there's about 20 that are of sort of highest priority. We do have, I'm not able to show it. Well, I'm not able to show it here, but there is an interactive map. So that'll be something that we include in our sort of big public presentation that shows what we've collected. So it's basically our map that we've come up with through the state sort of collector app. So that'll give an idea of exactly where those trees are within the village.
Okay, thank you.
Alex, how many years ago, Valerie, did we have that state meeting when we were the first tree in Addison County on North Street? And
That
then
was in 2019.
yeah, and then we walked over into the park, and then we actually took one of them down to the National Bank where I work. We have 3 of them on the front lawn there, and we've been trying to get them drilled and try to save them. And I remember we going over with the state person. We went that night over into the park, and we found 4 or 5 up in the, I'll call it towards the Baptist church area. And there was some talk of probably if those could be maybe saved in the park, maybe the others. And then that was about all we talked about. But but the one we cut down on North Street that made so much press was, I didn't think we could even, they recommended that be cut and put into a grinder right that day, right on site, and not be cut up into firewood or anything, because that beetle can still be in that piece of log that's 16, 18 inches long for a fireplace or a fire stove. So Alex, you talked a little bit about making this firewood. Is that correct in saying that, or it has to go to it has to be ground soon as it hits the ground, basically? It has to be put into a chipper.
Yeah, and other committee members can jump in if I'm not quite accurate. It's my understanding that both options, as far as right now, are both okay or both viable.
Okay. I know, Alex, just for information, I priced out with the guy that was there that night, and he told me it's $12 per inch of the width of the tree. So if you've got a 10 inches or 20-inch wide tree, that's $240 every other year for the life of that tree. You want to keep it.
Yes, yeah, and I think maybe if John Swepson is on the call, he can jump in, because that's one of the things that has been discussed is the tree. There's one in particular on the town green, an ash tree that John was wanting to inoculate as something that also, one of the reasons that this is a benefit is to show folks that, like a private tree can be saved. So like a private citizen can, in their backyard, just hire a company to come and inoculate their tree every 2 years. So I'll give him a chance to jump on.
Just one follow. I
Sure.
in one of your first slides, you said there's 226 trees in the so-called former village in outer area, or is that in the entire town?
That's in the entire town. And so basically that's the total number of trees collected in the whole data collection phase.
And do you have an idea of how many of those in the town right away versus on private land?
Yeah, that was all right of way. Some are designated as like utility. So they're under,
So we had 226 that the town has control either take down or not, or they're, not in somebody's,
correct.
More than 12 feet or 18 feet off the edge of the road, and we can't touch them. I guess that's my question.
Yeah. So 226 total in the town right of way.
Okay. That's a number of them. That's quite a few.
Did you want me to say something about that town, the green tree on the town
please.
green? So actually, I'm going to have, I've communicated with Teachers Tree, which is I think they're Charlotte based or something based tree company. They're going to look at that tree. They quoted me a price of $12 per inch at diameter breast height to inoculate the tree. They also said that they're going to inoculate after the leaves appear on the tree. So the inoculation time, the tree has to shoot leaves out. Because the leaves then carry the pesticide that the bugs are going to eat. So that's my most immediate experience with inoculation. And I only had them look at that one tree. There, according to my opinion, as the tree warden, there's not any other tree on any right of way in the village itself that I think warrants inoculation. Of course, I'm open to hearing arguments for maybe inoculating other trees, but the one that I really want to save is the one on the town green. It occupies a very important space.
Would prefer that people don't walk there while the trails are.
If I could add, there might be some trees in some of the park areas that are worth taking a look at for preservation. I don't know that for sure, but I don't. In the time of year that the inventory was done, and I think the committee plans on going back out, we might find some in some of the parks, like Sycamore Park or Eagle Park. And I don't know that Memorial Park had much opportunity for inventory.
John, a follow-up question. This is Joel. So you said you only found one ash tree in the park that's worth saving, or only one ash tree in the park period that's worth saving? Is there more than one in the park?
There are 2 ash trees in the park. There's one close to the old high school building, directly in front of the old high school building. I recently looked at that tree, and my take on that would be it is a removal on that tree. It's an easy removal and cheap, and there's a lot of other stuff around that can take the place, the air space of, you know what I mean? Aesthetically, it's not going to be a big hit, but the one that's on the main one on the town green occupies a very large space on the green, and it's it's a very aesthetically important tree in my opinion. So thus my recommendation that we inoculate that one. And there's no others that I found in the village, in the grid or anything that we've inventoried that, in my opinion, warrants inoculation or warrants keeping. Okay. I might sound harsh, but it's just my professional opinion about that.
Well, you have the background, and that's why we appoint you the tree warden. So
Right.
you're saying the one that in front of the high school, that's on private land.
No, that is on.
It's towards the. It's just to the left as you start down the middle of the sidewalk, isn't it?
Exactly. It's the first tree
I
that
know where it
you see
is,
as you
yep.
start. Yeah, so it's that.
That's the one you're recommending to come down.
Yeah, that to me is a removal
Yeah,
because
that
we've
one
got
is.
an elm there, we've got a beech, we got a bunch of diversity in there. It's nice, you know, and I think there's enough room. We could also replace it with something that's smaller, right tree, right place. Something that could thrive there, a little crabapple or, you know, something similar, or not, you know, something that's smallish and easy to maintain.
Okay. Follow-up question. After the leaves come out and you get it drilled and pesticide drilled into the base of the tree, teachers as we've talked with about possibly after our branches come out and the ones that are dead to cut them off so some new growth can come around. Is that going to be a cost that we're going to have to look into after we inoculate a tree?
If there's any pruning, yes, but if there's pruning, that's probably something that I would do as an arborist. I think the pruning of if we're talking about the tree that's on the town green, it'd be an easy prune. It's a very easy prune. It could maybe be done from the ground with a pole saw. You know, I've decided to prune a sugar maple over the war memorial area for free as sort of a gift to Bristol. And that's going to be a pretty involved, I got to climb to the tippy top of that, but that ash tree will be easy to prune. If there's dead limbs that seem hazardous, I think that should be a piece of cake. Okay. So
thank you.
It's not necessary to have teachers do that also. I think they're the inoculating experts. So I let them do that inoculation, at least there, at least for that one tree.
Anyone else? Alrighty, are we ready to move on?
Does the select board have any feedback for the plan, the document itself? If folks had a chance to look it over, any suggestions?
I thought I did a good job. So
yeah, I did. I think it's a good start, and they've made a great progress on identifying them. And as you know, probably every town in the state's going to ask for that grant money. So it's probably going to be a few dollars every year we're going to get, but not. I wouldn't look at replacing all of them the first even 2 years probably.
The Arbor Day Foundation may also have some funding available.
Right. Is there thought if there's those 226 and, you know, if there was one on my front lawn here that, you know, I really would hate to see it go, but we know it has to go. I know I don't have any. I had 2 big maples there. Was there any talk of working with a landowner and, you know, maybe they're willing to throw in some money to get it planted, get another one replanted? John can help me out here. Replant. Yeah. Does that stump have to be ground or come out or just stay?
Normally the stumps can be ground, but I don't think the stump is a vector to spread the bug. I don't think the bugs reside in the stump, so I don't think stump grinding is absolutely necessary. I think for the aesthetics of your lawn, sure, get rid of it. We did talk about what you just said, partnering with homeowners. Also, in the sense that homeowner might want to inoculate a Bristol tree. It actually is happening on Pine Street in front of my house where I live. There's an ash tree which the homeowner took upon himself to hire a tree company to inoculate it, and it's a tree that's on the town right of way, and it's a pretty important tree in his yard. He wanted to keep it, so he inoculated it. We approved it and said, you know, we said go ahead, and you know that it's a pretty sizable tree, so that's in the couple $100 a year range, I think, or every other year, sorry. So yes, there could be that partnership. Also we want to inform homeowners when we remove the tree, and we would take homeowner input for what they might want to see as a replacement tree. But we don't want to get too involved in that. That could be confusing. It could be the wrong tree, wrong place idea, but at least have that you know, the line of communication open with the homeowner. If we remove something that's directly in front of their house and that they have an attachment to the tree, perhaps. We did talk about that.
Okay.
One other thing that I wanted to say is that if any of the select board, if you go up North Street now, there's another tree that's right in the throes of emerald ash borer. So it's very close to the one that we took down in 2019. So you'll see it when it leaves out, it's probably going to be fairly dead looking. It has a bunch of sprouts coming out of the trunk, out of the ground near the root flare of the tree. And I'd recommend, if you're walking down North Street, give that tree a look, because it's a prime example of what emerald ash borer looks like and does to a tree. I've been telling everybody about that, to go check out that tree. It's a good example.
All set?
Great.
Thank
Thank you,
guys.
Alex.
Thanks, John. Alex.
Yep. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Alex.
And the rest of the committee.
Everyone else.
All right, onward. Request to install a memorial plaque on a park bench at the town green.
So this is a proposal from Ethan Reddy. He would like to he'd like permission to install a memorial plaque in memory of Edward Cushman on one of the benches in the town green. As far as I know, this is the first request of this type to the select board. Because it would be a modification to town property. It's appropriate that it is on the select board's agenda. I thought I saw Ethan online earlier.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay?
Nope, there he is.
Yeah. How's it going, everyone? Good?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just I was going back and forth with Meredith a little bit, trying to work the proper channels here. Ed passed away this year. Just been a lifelong resident in the town of Bristol. A lot of family connections and unexpected. He was a big supporter of the town. Loved to go to the band concerts. Mother worked at Dr. Henderson's for years. I think some of you guys on the board know him. Just wanted to reach out and see if we could put something to remember him on the back one of the benches in town. And thought I'd see what the board had to think about it. Obviously, the family's willing to do whatever is needed as far as maintenance. Kind of an opportunity maybe to adopt a bench on the green, and I'd be willing to do the work to maintain. I think there was one bench that it's kind of permanent on the south side of the bandstand. Just something maybe the size of a cell phone in memory of Cushman, and I'd take the time to go down. There needed to be new lumber, hardware, painting, whatever's needed. I'd take the time to go down there in the spring each year and make sure it looks good. But and we'd throw whatever money's needed to buy the plaque and stuff. But thought I'd throw it out there. There's certain things in the COVID area when someone passes that they don't get, and I think that this would mean a lot to the family, and thought I'd throw it out there.
Ethan, I was wondering, hi, first of all, hi. Had the family considered a memorial brick for the Legion's memorial walkway? Had you considered a brick?
Yeah, I don't know the rules and regs around the bricks. As far as you mean over on the Veterans Memorial?
Yes. You don't have to be a veteran. The top half, if you're looking at it from, if you were standing on the North Street sidewalk there and looking towards the old high school, The upper half is for veterans and the lower half is for residents, anybody who wants to buy a brick. They take orders up until about May, middle of May. And you can buy I believe a 4 by 8 inch brick is somewhere in the neighborhood of around just over right around $100. And I think an 8 by 8, and I know Tasha knows the prices. An 8 by 8 is somewhere about $175. If I'm not correct, please jump in. And you can get 20 letters per line on a brick, and it's 3 lines for an 4 by 8 and 6 lines for an 8 by 8. So just a thought. I didn't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about the brick option. We were kind of hoping on the bench option if there was one.
I mean, I do see a lot of people walk that memorial. A lot of people walk it, and they keep it nice and clean. The Legion does, and things.
Yeah.
So.
The Boy Scouts cleaned it this year.
Yeah, I'm not real sure. There was some talk when the 2 benches went in to the memorial that had names on them. And I can't exactly remember the discussion, but it bordered somewhere on names being on. I don't know if there was an ordinance or something about names being on benches. And I know we ended up allowing the names on the 2 marble benches there that they were donated. And the people who donated the benches got their names on the bench, but I'm not sure. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not sure if we have something in the works that doesn't allow it.
When we redid the park, there was a bench put in when we redid the playground, there was a bench put in by the playground, and I believe there's a plaque on that bench.
There is.
Ian, remind me, is that, yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's a few of them, and that was from emailing with Carol Wells earlier today. She said that it was those were named just with donations when that project was happening. So it was sort of half a donation for the bench. And I think there are a couple benches that have the plaques, and that would be benches that would be stayed near the playground. Yeah, I'm not opposed to having a bench named either. I might recommend doing one of the metal benches just because they're in better condition, and using the same style of plaque that the other benches have, just to match. It's a small brass plaque, and they can be done at Vermont Trophy. And the reason I suggest the metal is just because the wooden one, which is the permanently fixed one, isn't in the best shape. And I don't know, it sounded like you were offering to sort of update that. And I guess that would be, if you were interested in doing that, I would entertain that as well. That's a bigger commitment than just doing the plaque on one of the metal ones. But of course, it would be up to you and what you wanted to pursue.
Yeah, so I went down, and I know Meredith sent around a few photos, and I mean, in a perfect world, I think the stationary, the permanent one would be nice because it kind of faces the bandstand where you like to watch the band concerts and such. But there is some it needs some work. I mean, the hardware itself looks decent, but I'd be willing to contribute my time and money and supplies to actually fix that bench up if the board was interested in having that work done and putting a small plaque on that bench. I think that would be most suiting, but any of them will work. I was just trying to see if we could agree on something tonight, and then I could work with Meredith and make sure that it's up to code and include her and kind of take her lead as far as what materials we wanted to use if the board wanted that bench fixed up. If not, we'd look at either putting a plaque on one of the metal ones, or I mean, we'd even buy a new bench. It's whatever the town wants, but I'll take the board's lead on it and see where it goes.
Meredith, where we're at as far as benches? I mean, is that one in need of repair? And
Yeah, so that stationary bench is in need of repair. I primed and painted it last year in the spring, and it just the wood is seen a lot. So if we replace the wood on that bench, it would last a lot longer, and that's an opportunity to be able to put a plaque on there.
Mayor, is that the structure of that bench is iron, cast iron, or some kind of metal that the wood is attached to?
That is correct.
And that metal is in good, fine shape?
Yep, that metal is good, and it's not loose or anything from where it is.
Is that one the one that's cemented into the ground or no?
Yes.
That one, yeah, it's squared in, and then but it's been around so long that the grass has started to grow over the cement.
I mean, I would be, if Ethan wants to take that and replace all the wood, you know, and paint it, put a plaque on, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
So I'm not opposed to this, but I think you guys need to think about a policy before you get too many people saying they want to put a plaque on a bench and we run out of benches and spots to put it.
Right. I agree with that, Michelle. I do agree with that.
yeah, that was, I know it was a topic of conversation when we did the memorial, but I don't remember the outcome of it.
And I think, Peter, it brings back memory now. Those two benches were donated by two families here in town, two to the Legion for the memorial.
Yes, yeah.
Not to the town.
There was a considerable amount of talk about their names being on it. And because they were donated, that we ended up allowing it. But I don't remember the whole conversation, but I know there was concern about, just what Michelle said. Everybody wanting their name on the park. And I would entertain a motion to let Ethan go ahead with this one. If you guys are so inclined, and we probably ought to look into what we're going to do in the future.
Sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd make a motion, maybe to work with Meredith on the design of the bench, and also have the plaque match what is on the other benches, the metal benches, maybe, if we were able to do that, just so there's uniformity to the design of the plaque for the benches in the park.
I'll second that with just a question, Ian. You said the design of it. So are you saying a new bench or replace the wood on the one that's Meredith said it needs to be
Correct. Replace the wood, and whether the design needs to change to improve it, perhaps for accessibility, things like that. But yes, replace the wood on the fixed bench that we have in the park.
Can I add to that, Ian, that Meredith gets to review what the plaque says just to make sure we don't have something inappropriate?
Yes.
Well, I'd like to also what kind of wood we're going to use, and maybe or the same wood you used before. I don't know what the life expectancy of that bench was.
Right.
I mean, if you're just going to throw some pine down or some pressure treated, and then we probably will have another discussion about it.
So given that, do we want to have Meredith submit a design to us for us to approve, or can we make a motion now for her to take on this project?
My guess is the design's going to be the same that's there, because you already have the metal
frame
outside. It's just a matter of what kind of wood you're going to use.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you're getting way too deep into the weeds. I think we leave it up to make sure we get the right wood for the project and trust our people.
That's what I'm asking. Yes, good.
Remember, Picker, Ethan works for the Forest Service. He knows about the weeds. He's in the
He's gonna go cut that ash tree down and have it milled out. And
yeah,
It'd be a good use for it.
Tasha, does that motion make any sense? Okay. And Joel seconded.
Oddly, I understood what you guys were saying, so
good.
Which is, I think, a first for me.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Opposed? Motion carried.
Right. Thanks,
So
Ethan.
Really
Get-
appreciate it.
get with
Thank-
Meredith.
Meredith, if you want to shoot me an email or something, we'll get it done on your terms, and appreciate the time tonight, guys.
All right.
Nice seeing
Yep.
you.
Bye.
Okay, moving on. Request by the Bobcat Cafe to occupy 2 parking spaces off the town green for the food truck.
So I just want to interject. I did get an email at about 6 today, and they're retracting that request for right now.
Well, that makes it easy then.
Yep.
Recreation Department updates. We won't let you off the hook that easy.
All right. Well, just wanted to just kind of inform everybody of how our spring and summer is looking. We're at about 80% full capacity of our camps that we're running out of the hub, which is pretty exciting. We're going ahead with the teddy bear picnic. It'll be modified so the kids bring their own little teddy bears, but we'll still do some teddy bear readings in the park. We are having the townwide yard sale. Put it on your calendar, June 26th. It'll be the same 9 to 3. We'll be sending out info for people to get their houses, their address on the map. Movies in the park are going to be a go. Instead of having 5 movies, we're going to actually make it 3 movies, 1 a month. And then a music series we're going to be bringing to the hub. So that's exciting. We'll be sending out a newsletter this week with all this information and putting it on our Facebook page and sending it out on Front Porch Forum. Pretty much where we're at right now is we are looking to an additional summer camp counselor because of we're actually probably in the necessity of having 1 extra person for us to be able to run the camps and also do all the events that we are planning to do on the weekends, after hours. So our thought is finding a counselor between the pay rate of $13 to $15 an hour, and they would be helping out with the camps. And their camps are 10 weeks. So we have 10 weeks of camps. And they range from mountain bike camps, river camp, and Hub has 3 styles of camps. So we're looking at a pretty busy summer. And so we're hoping that we'll be able to bring on another counselor. And one of the reasons is we have, there's the 3 of us, Alex, Taylor, and myself. When we're running these camps, we have the lead counselor, the counselor, and then health officer at the camp. That's how it would work really well. And then we have the 4th person that rotates as the admin for the camps. And that just, it allows us to run quality and not quantity and provide a really successful summer to the community. A couple other things is we've gotten the Holly Hall back on track at just a minimum of rental, more like a private dance lessons here. The Red Blood Cross has really been using our Holly Hall almost once a month, which is fantastic. And then for April, we're working with MAUSD so they can do their assessments at Holly Hall. So it's kind of nice being able to bring back the Holly Hall and have a couple of people being able to use it. So that's pretty much in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions? Now, Meredith, just to confirm the funding for the counselor, that's already in your budget, is that right? Right. So it comes out about $6,400 at the high pay rate of $16. 2 of the camps are in the fiscal year of 2020, and then the 8 camps are in the fiscal of 2021.
Hey, Meredith, what about the Montlock studio? How's that coming for the summer?
So Montlock has been doing great. So we're only allowed to have 4 people in her classes. And what's happening is we're adding classes. So we've actually added adult evening play class. We were successful with the last February break. We actually added a morning session. So it's always been a 1 to 2:30. So now we were 10:30 to 12, and they were full. And I have wait lists. So until we feel comfortable, we're really going to keep that at a 4 maximum capacity in that studio. And Meredith, is the hub is opening up soon, right? Yes, so, yeah, Taylor's on here, and I'd love it if she would just kind of come on here and tell us the exciting news. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So on Monday, actually, we're planning on reopening. So we have been waiting and watching and listening to I've been listening to a lot of different presentations from youth and a lot of mental health professionals, and what is seen nationally, at least, is kind of a mental health crisis amongst youth right now and amongst teens. And so we're kind of pushing up against this wall of really needing to reopen. And with vaccines underway, and other teen centers are starting to open as well. So we're going to push forward. And now we can also have some outdoor stuff and have our windows open, and we won't be freezing, which is really exciting. So we're opening on Monday with a max capacity of 15 kids inside the building at a time. What that means usually is that there's probably about 7 kids inside the building, if that many, because when it's nice, the skate park is thriving. So kids are out there. Masks are required at all times. We do health screenings, and we're for the foreseeable future, we're going to be following the cohort model that the schools follow right now. So basically, if you're in school in person, you can come to the hub. Trying to limit kind of the exposure groups, and also just it's an easier way to try to also limit the number of kids that come in. Because when in the fall, when we dropped the cohort model, we were seeing 20 kids coming in a day or more. Like we kind of jumped right back up, which was amazing for the hub. But in terms of COVID, we want to it's good to kind of keep the numbers down, like in a safe way. So that's super exciting. And then we're looking at the summer. We're hoping to be open 5 days a week this summer. So we're also looking at hiring on a part-time person to help with the open hours, because given our full summer camps and then the weekend events, we're hitting a wall where we have no staff that can staff the hub for any time. So we have money in our United Way of Addison County grant that's been kind of sitting there, because originally it was meant to use for staffing. So we have enough money to cover a person for, it'd be about 15 hours a week. And so we're looking at that as well. But we're really excited, and we're partnering with Vermont Works for Women, starting in a couple of weeks, to do a STEM program for young girls and gender nonconforming youth. And we're also partnering with the Green Mountain Roller Derby in the fall, which is really cool. And so just a lot of really cool stuff. I don't know. We're excited to be open again. It's been a long winter, and I definitely miss the teens coming in. But yeah. Do you have any questions?
Well, sounds pretty fantastic.
Yeah, it sounds really great.
Thanks. Yeah, we want to make sure we want to reopen, but we also we want to make sure that everyone's safe. So that's definitely our priority, and we're going to keep paying attention and listening to the recommendations from the state.
Meredith, I had a Main Street business owner ask about the Harvest Festival. I know that's a little later down the year, but any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we've met up with Rob. We've worked out planned COVID for having the Bristol Harvest Fest on the town green. I am planning to be on the agenda for April 12th. Rob and I we're going to present to you folks what our plans are. We just a quick idea. We had 75 vendors in the past, and we've cut it down to 42. We've respaced the town green, so there is somewhat of a route that you would take to go through the vending area. We've taken vendors out from the middle of the park and put them out to the side, so there's more space to spread out. And for music, we are only really looking for string styles, no brass, no horns, no spitting instruments. So yeah, our plan is to go along, and we're excited to present what we've come up to or out with on April 12th.
Great. Sounds awesome.
Any other questions, guys? Comments? I do want to say that I really appreciate working with everybody in the town and also with the rec hub team. I mean, we really, I believe that we've done a great job in getting around and through this COVID and pandemic time. So I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Continued discussion on Holly Hall bell tower repair.
So as I outlined in my notes, we have some information to work with about the situation with the bell tower. We have a quote from Rooster Construction for repair. It's sometimes referred to as the roof, sometimes the floor. But anyway, the floor of the bell tower, which is the roof of the, well, anyway. And then Joel and Kevin Ritorni went up there a couple weeks ago and also identified some areas that need repair. And also Ted Lilas offered his recommendations about repairing the floor. And we also talked about hiring a structural engineer to do an evaluation before we do anything, just to make sure that that there's nothing structural that we can't see, or maybe we can see, but we're not trained to see it to make sure that whatever's done, because it's going to be a significant investment, and we want to make sure that whatever we do is done right and for the long term. So this item is to circle back on all of this information and decide the next steps.
Okay, can I clarify? So we're not really talking about the whole roof. We're just talking about what I would call the steeple bell tower, that section. Or are we actually really talking about some of the roof?
We're talking about where the floor of the bell tower area of the steeple, what the bell actually sits on.
Right. Okay. But we're not talking about the roof structure itself for the rest of Holly Hall. We're just talking about that section, whatever needs to be done with that section.
Correct, because that is right now where a majority of the leaking is.
Okay.
But there are some other leaks, but the majority is in this area.
Okay.
This is this area we're talking about having the structural engineer see that we've got enough there to hold the bell for the foreseeable future before we fix the floor and the roof.
So I had a question. So Joel, in your emails back and forth, you mentioned we were talking about having the structural engineer be hired at a previous meeting. It seemed like the Val was going to go ahead and do that. Are we still going to do that? Is that you'd mentioned that you were going to give us an update tonight with your meeting?
I'll give you an update. I'll give you an update of what Kevin and I saw.
Okay.
Did that work in 97 or 92. 92. I looked back through my files. And but that doesn't relieve. I still think a structural engineer ought to be hired.
Okay.
Because I'm not now. I stated earlier. I think a lot of the cracks that I sent you guys of those block and solder panels were from the bell, and I'm not so sure now it was from all of it from the bell, because if you get underneath where you go up the tiny ladder to get onto that platform, and you see where the mechanism for the clock. You look up into that ceiling, half of it's collapsed, as Meredith says, and you can see the floor joists or the ceiling joists, whatever you want to call them, for that subfloor. They're all beginning to twist a little and turn. And I think that could be causing some of the cracks in that floor or that metal, in the solder joints. So I think the engineer will tell us a lot, whether you got a cistern, those with blocking or whatever. But I think the goal of the board should be, by all means, that there'll be no questions whatsoever to the engineer that structure will be strong enough, if it's got to be repaired, to put the bell back. I don't want to hear from the structural engineer, well, I think if you just leave the bell out, I think you'll be fine. That's not an answer I want to hear. I think that bell's got to go back in that tower so the people know that clock rings, or there's going to be 6 nooses on the park and they're going to hang all of us. It don't happen, because that's got to happen. That bell's going to go back up some way. I don't want to end up like a building did up on 32 North Street that you can't put vehicles in there anymore. So, but Kevin did look at it, and those pictures I sent you guys, there is a lot of stress cracks in that block and solder that could be soldered. He says cleaned up, soldered, and then an epoxy put over that metal floor, and you could probably get 20 to 25 years out of that again, he said. And then the caulking around, you saw in those pictures, the caulking around the 8x8 columns that hold the roof over the bell, and which is the roof that has the clock in it. So
Okay.
I still want to hire. I think we need to hire an engineer to see why the timbers are twisting.
Valerie, what do you want from us? You want the go ahead to be able to hire an engineer to get in there and see what we need to do? Safe.
Well, I'm hearing that there's agreement to go ahead and do that. So that's helpful. So I'll make that call tomorrow.
Valerie,
I think that's the first step. The second step will be when they report back to us what we have to do, figuring out how we're going to get that done. I don't think we need to do. What is the bell out now?
Yes, it is.
So with the bell out, I don't think we need to do anything until we find out. I can't see fixing the roof if we end up having to take it off. I mean, if we have to delve deeper into it and do some structural work and that has to come off, there's no sense in fixing it prior to doing the other work.
I believe, I'm not a structural engineer, and I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn last night, so that doesn't qualify me. But I don't think you're going to have to take that. Any structural work will be underneath, Speaker. I don't believe by taking the roof off, the tin off. That roof is still fine shape. It's just cracked on the seams.
You think that can be fixed now and not end up being a problem with the?
No, I think the engineer will tell us that. I think the engineer. What was Rooster Construction? Don't tell us the price, but what were they estimating to fix, Valerie?
It was a long list of things. Meredith can summarize it.
Now there is some. We looked. Kevin looked up in the tower. Huh?
Let's get the list.
Okay.
It is on the website. It is posted.
The list is huge. It's like 2 pages. So.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, that it's a detailed list, which is great, but I think before even looking at that, we need the structural engineer to come in and give their report, and then we go back to Rooster or open it up for wider
scope or whatever.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For other proposals, if we need to, depending on what the structural engineer finds. So, do you need a motion, Val, or can you just go ahead with that?
I'm fine with this consensus.
Okay, great.
Valerie, on the invoice, you might want to look to the left where the total was supposed to be, because it kind of gives away the total.
Oh, I know.
Okay. I just wondered why we eliminate the total when the total's right there. So.
Well, the one reason that I debated whether to do that, but I thought it was useful information to have some idea of what kind of scope we're talking about. And also, it's been a real challenge to find anybody interested in working on this project. And so even if we put it out to bid, I'd be very surprised if anybody else responded, because it's been so hard to get people to look at it and give us a quote about anything. People are busy, and the job isn't large enough to pull other people away off of other projects and rearrange their schedules. And especially now this time of year, people's schedules have filled up. So I think, anyway, we'll That's
Well,
Okay.
two things. The structural engineer may come up with either more or less than what's in their list. And
Right.
secondly, their quote may change because prices of stuff have gone up.
Right.
Right, exactly.
So
Okay.
Ready?
Okay, I've got my directions. Thank you.
Perfect. Grant application authorization request, AARP Community Challenge.
So moved.
Do we want to talk about the receptacle design?
I want to talk about where the benches are going to go and where the 10 garbage things are going to go.
Everywhere.
Yeah, well,
there's
we'll
no-
have a
there's no-
discussion about that.
There's
But
no
the park
there's no-
benches, were you planning on, from what I'm reading this, they're going on the sidewalks or, downtown?
They would
Main
be
Street?
in the where the stamped brick area is. So like the utility line, and quite likely facing the buildings, facing the sidewalks.
And they'll be far enough apart so when somebody parks over the curb, they don't hit them?
Or maybe
It's-
against
yeah.
the building wall.
Position placement is yet to be determined. Val and I are going to take a walk and sort of take a look at that. This came from a proposal that we put in last year for the same thing, and so we're doing this again. We have the addition of the trash cans, and there's also the potential for using the closing the alleyway between the Rockford block and the National Bank, again, similar to what was done last year, and maybe some of that infrastructure could be put into this grant as well. It's a very difficult grant to get, probably. There were a lot of applicants and only, I think there were, what was it, 71 applicants, and there were 2 awards or something like that in Vermont. So it's a difficult thing to get, but we're hopeful.
Mm-hmm. So here's a screenshot of the proposed trash receptacle, and they're metal.
These would replace the ones that we have now. These are about the same size. They're probably a little bit bigger just because of the way that it's designed. There's not a lot of options out there for ones that are large and hopefully would last a number of years. It's metal construction. It has a plastic top. I liked this because it keeps the same design where it's not 2 cans sitting out there, one for recycling and one for trash. But it offers us a way where it doesn't have a shelf. It has larger holes to put things into, both sides. Not too enormous though, not like our old trash cans where it was just a big empty barrel. Keeps them together, but also offers it where it's not back to back. I think a lot of the problem of the ones we have now that we've discovered over years is that people just you stuff one thing in there and you can't get anything else in, and people just balance trash and recycling. These, because you've got the separate partition, I think it will work a little bit better. And it's a rounded top. I mean, you could balance things on the top, but I'm hoping that something like this would help us with the issues that we've had in the past with trash.
Do you think we'll have to have the same number, Ian? Are these about the same size? Or do you think like one of these will replace 2 of our old ones?
I'd like to keep the same number. We know that by covers, that's one of the most popular. So having the two there, I think they're about the same. I don't know the exact specs of the ones we have, but I think they're about the same internal size of the internal buckets or containers. But it's just the design that's improved upon. They don't draw attention to themselves. It's metal construction for the frame, plastic top, easy to take off. You get trash and recycling, similar to how you do ours now. I expect more in this, just in the hope that we could put more out if this would hopefully solve. But we would essentially replace the 7 that we have, and maybe have a few spare if we wanted to put them around somewhere else, or just have one that we could swap out if one of them got damaged.
Are we able to get this in our green, or is that the color we get?
No, you can. Well, I can't remember my research. It's the decals. I think they're black only, I believe. I could be wrong about that though.
Ian, will they be lined with a black bag and a clear bag for recycling?
It's similar to ours. I think it's a plastic container that sits inside the metal,
Okay.
so that's just pulled out and then emptied into when the trash guys pick up.
So is that top hinged on one side, or just you lift the top off, set it on the ground, and
Lift the top straight off and set it on the ground.
the plastic molded top, one piece to cover two containers, or it looks,
Yes.
we don't think those will blow off and go roll plastic and crack?
I don't think so. I think they're heavy enough.
Okay.
I don't know if we can get the green peaker. I'll look into that. I was okay with the black just because there's sort of, not drawing attention to themselves. But I can research and see if they're available in different colors.
I would also like to see if we can get the decals in green instead of blue.
I think they do come in different colors.
Thought I saw it there somewhere.
Yeah, they're powder coated according to this, so that's not paint, that's baked on.
Right.
So it won't fade. Yeah. Wow.
I see.
Can we get one more sign under the trash that says no pizza box?
Yeah.
You could get a sign, but
Be nice.
you could get a sign, but it's not going to stop them.
No.
This grant or not.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the plan. They're about $800 each. A little bit less when you buy them, a good number of them. But as I said, the likelihood of us getting this grant is slim. But we thought we'd try again this year and see what happens. But I might, try to, if we have other opportunities to get trash receptacles and get the ones that we have replaced. I'm working on that as my little project.
And would the benches be the same as the ones that are on the park now, Ian?
Yes.
I think so, right? They're the same design.
Yep.
And being the green.
Yep.
Thanks.
I do worry about Michelle's comment about we tried to stagger those light poles so they'd be between two parked cars, and now if we put a bench in between them and the car rolls into the bench, we're not going to be much further off.
Or perhaps it can go up against a building wall.
Yeah, I think there's probably like four or five locations that have enough space against the building wall that we could put in. Some businesses already put out seating now, and that maybe this would replace some of that. I think it would just be something where we can work with businesses to be able to sort of facilitate seating during the year or during the nice seasons, the warmer seasons.
A location in front of Holly Hall and also Howden Hall.
That's right.
Going to go back. All this discussion is good, but we still haven't decided whether we're going to allow them to apply for the grant or not. So point.
I make a motion to allow Val to apply for the grant.
I'll second that.
All right. Now, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Continued appointments, reappointments of 10 officers. May include deliberation in executive session.
So folks may have had a chance to look at the updated table. Basically, the differences are that we have heard from the members of the Energy Committee who are up for reappointment. They're all interested in being reappointed. And 2 members of the Planning Commission are not interested in being reappointed.
I see Peter Ryan doesn't want to be back on the revolving loan fund.
Right, and Peter Ryan does not want to be reappointed to the revolving loan fund. And I'd also make the recommendation that Josh Hennick, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, be appointed to the Emerald Ash Borer Committee to fill Chris Urban's seat that he vacated.
So moved.
How do you spell his name?
It's
BEHOUNEK.
Sorry, repeat because my computer's.
It's in the TA report.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to appoint the Energy Committee and the person to the Emerald Ash Board. Is that correct?
That'd be great.
Any further discussion?
Who moved and seconded?
I moved.
Yeah, I
Joel
second.
seconded.
Thank you.
Right. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
I'd like to thank Katie Raycroft Meyer and Phil Brown for their years of service on the Planning Commission. I think they both did an excellent job, especially Katie being the chair for the past number of years. They will be sorely missed.
Yes,
I
thank
second.
you.
Yeah, that's terrific. And yeah, to acknowledge the heavy lifting that they did these past couple of years on the
Mhm.
home plan and the unified regulations.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Any luck on recruiting anybody for those two?
No, but the next step will be to advertise.
Okay.
Re-advertise. Continue to
We'll also we'll need a chair for that commission as well.
Right. And Bill Brown was vice chair.
Right.
So you
Chairs.
need both.
If you can find anybody that would be good, mention it to them, prod them, try to get them to apply. It's such a wonderful job.
Yeah. And I'll update the website with our new appointees, Val.
Thank you.
Right, Ian, we pay well that position, those
Absolutely.
when we get the time submitted to us.
Alrighty, moving on. Conservation Commission candidate, Helen Young. And I see she's here.
Hi.
Hi. I guess the floor is yours. Tell us why you'd like to be on the Conservation Commission.
I've lived in Bristol for about 23 years. I'm a retired professor at Middlebury College. I served on the board of the Watershed Center for quite a few years, part of it as a co-president with David Brin. The reason I want to serve on this committee is largely because I utilize many of the areas that this committee oversees: Sycamore Park, the Bristol Trail Network. I spend a lot of time outdoors. I appreciate the things that exist in Bristol as a way to explore the river and the hills. So I feel as though my experience as a biologist, as well as a relatively long-term resident of the area, my skills might be useful for the Bristol Conservation Committee.
Any other questions?
Helen, have you sat in on a meeting?
I did earlier this month. Earlier this month.
Okay.
Yep.
And they didn't scare you off, huh?
They didn't. No, I think it'll be interesting and fun.
I make a motion, we appoint Helen to one of the positions on the Conservation Commission.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried.
Before you move on,
Thank you, Helen.
Carolyn, I see you're on. Can I ask a question about Green Up Day?
Yeah.
Are they going to do it the same way they did last year? Are we doing it on time this year? Do you know?
Yeah. So it's going to be the first Saturday of May, like a normal year. But because of COVID restrictions, we're still just going to have the bags available in a, touchless way. Will this be available on the steps, at the library, things like that for people to grab. So we won't be doing the expo and all the fun handout tables, but we will have everything normal, and I'll start advertising for that. I was going to do it April 1st. So
okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for approving Helen. She thinks she'll be a great addition to the BCC.
Thank you, Ella. Thanks, Carla.
Thank you. Review proposed assessor job description and proposed advertisement for new position. Valerie is there. She is.
Yep, sorry about that.
That's okay.
I was trying to get my printer to work, but it's offline. So hopefully folks had a chance to look at the draft advertisement and job description for the assessor. It's a collaborative effort to pull it together. Folks, any thoughts? This is something we talked about a bit during the budget session. So it's a budgeted position. Do folks need me to screen share?
Yeah.
Okay, let me pull it up. So to summarize, it's intended, as drafted, it's intended to be a contract position, roughly 8 to 16 hours a week at $25 an hour. And to kind of supervise and direct listers, assign tasks, and oversee maintenance of the grand list. And then for qualifications and skills, we were advised not to include certification, a certain type of certification that might disqualify candidates that would otherwise be qualified.
I would like to see it somewhere in here because it's getting more confusing is current use program. Be qualified to deal with, well, it says tax laws of the state of Vermont. I'd like to see that say, maybe find assess.
Familiarity with current use program?
Well, maybe you can put familiarity with state of Vermont's assessing capabilities or something of that language. You got the state of Vermont tax laws in there, but I know current use can be a real headache sometimes, especially when somebody's got 100 acres in, they want to take 2 acres out to give to their son for a house, and how that goes about penalizing for pulling it out early and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you want to
That's
word
the
it.
state's requirement to do that, but I mean,
No,
we just
we
have
have
to
to
give them
do
the
that.
assessment.
As listers are responsible for the current use in their town.
Right.
I mean, they call their advisor. I know.
They're only responsible for giving the value of the property, and then the state is the one that assesses.
Comes up with the, yeah, they're the ones that come up with the lien amount.
I see that I left something off here. So I guess there's a certificate or a memo or some sort of thing that needs to be prepared annually.
Lister certificate by the 31st has to be by the December 31st of every year. The grand list has to be approved.
Mm-hmm.
Or corrections, errors and omissions. You have them there. Identify errors and omissions.
Right. There's something, I was going to add something and then got distracted.
Oh, I can't remember what the name of that was. H something.
It's something we have to approve every year.
Right.
Isn't it the certification of the errors and omissions?
Yeah, it's just errors.
Yeah.
And omissions.
Jen's saying something.
Sorry, it's just errors and omissions is what it's called. To submit to you guys for adoption, approval, whatever, by December 31st annually.
And it looks okay to me.
Yep.
Yep, me too.
Okay, super. And I'll pop up the ad. Hang on.
Oh, Laura, can you go back real quick? I don't think it's Vermont Department of Taxes. I think it's the Vermont Department of Property Evaluation and Review. That's the title, but I may be wrong. Just check on that.
It's the Vermont Department of Taxes, but it's the Property Valuation and Review sub-department, whatever, but it's still Department of Taxes.
Okay.
So there's the ad, and I put on a due date of April 16th. That way, hopefully, we would have somebody to consider at the April 26th select board meeting, hopefully.
So as a contractor, they're going to need their own insurance. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't see that in there.
But
Maybe that could be added to the job description too.
I mean, when I did 25 an hour for budgeting, I was just guessing, basing that a contractor is going to tell us what they charge. So I don't know how that does or doesn't limit you for people applying as a contractor for the position, just because if
So
they
invite them to
have
submit a
experience,
proposal.
they might charge X. So I don't know. Just a thought, as a contractor submitting something, I might say, well, my rate is $40 an hour to do this job that I do for all these other towns. I think I just took a shot in the dark as to what it could be. So just 25 was what I had guessed budget wise. It wasn't necessarily from any research I may or may have not done.
Okay. So we'll just invite people to submit a proposal.
That's what I was going to say. So Jen, are you suggesting that you just say starting rate is based on qualifications and experience and leave out the number?
I mean, it's totally up to you guys. I just want to make sure that we're not limiting ourselves, because if we're hiring them as a contractor, they're going to be required to have their own insurance and things like that, which will change potentially what their hourly rate is.
And there may be somebody who has this down who can do it in half the time, but they're more money.
Because if we're expecting them to be a contractor, which is, I think, kind of what you and I had discussed, Valerie, that, they would have to have their own insurance to do that.
So they wouldn't be, because somewhere else we said it was a full-time position, so it wouldn't be a full-time employee then if they're a contractor. They wouldn't be considered a town employee.
Correct, Darla. Yep, that's what I'm trying to say.
I'm just trying to make it, I was just trying to make it make sense in my head.
And I don't think it said full-time. I think it said permanent.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Permanent position.
You're right.
Okay.
I don't see where it says permanent. It says to serve as part-time. This is a permanent position.
Yeah.
So
That was in the other one, Joel. That was
okay,
in
they got it.
the other one.
It's a permanent position for life.
Yes, they can never ever leave.
It's like being queen.
I asked that kiddingly, but you get somebody that's. I was here in '93 when we hired an appraisal company that the appraiser sat at the pinball machine at Park Filling most of the time. And that's why we had 860 grievances that year. Somebody permanent? Just use the word permanent. Well, I got to hear from. I buffaloed them and came in here, and I'm permanent.
Oh, could you use permanent contractual position so that you could say that it could be evaluated?
Do you want to just say this is a
Annually,
contracted
like,
position?
It's a permanent 8 to 16 hours a week for as long as we hire you as a contractor.
Yeah, I think we can get rid of the word permanent and replace it with contractual.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of permanent, and you're going to get rid of and replace that, and you're going to get rid of the 25.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't say we're not paying above 25. It says the starting rate.
I'll just say, let's see.
Starting rate is based on qualifications and experience. Could be $10, it could be 40.
Right. I'd like to leave that starting rate.
Could it just be rate is based on qualifications and experience?
Sure.
I because I think you might get somebody who's $30 an hour who's really good who says, "Yeah, they're only looking at 25. I'm not going to apply."
Right. Right. No, all good points. Anything else?
I still think the starting rate, it should be say just what it says. I don't agree with you, Peeker. If they're 30, they base it on their qualifications. They come in and say, I've been doing this for 40 years. I've got this many towns. I can do this. I need to get $30 an hour. And we get 3 more that aren't worth the hat to put them in. We say, yep, we're going to pay 30. It doesn't say we're not paying 30. It just says we're going to start the rate at 25.
But this way we don't have to even start at 25 if someone comes in green and.
Or you want just the rate is based on qualifications?
Yeah. That's what we were saying.
And down here, I can add to send a letter, resume, cost proposal, and 3 references.
There you go. Okay. If that was there, cost proposals or your hourly rate.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Good.
Yeah, I'd like that, Valerie.
Good. Thank you. We're good.
Onward.
So I take it there was consensus to move forward.
Yes.
Yeah. Continued consideration of updates to the Bristol personnel policy.
God, I hope this isn't like last week's discussion.
No, well, hopefully if folks had a chance to look at the TA report, we're not proposing to go through it tonight. Instead, following up on a staff meeting we had last week, we suggest that the select board liaisons to the different departments arrange to connect with the department heads and go through the relevant sections of the personnel policy together. That way, each person that'll allow folks to make the time to do that, and also kind of be able to talk through whatever concerns particular departments might have, and then hopefully also folks could actually include their comments or edits and suggestions in the live document that Jen had made available on the shared drive. So that after we, instead of a target date, a benchmark date of having this done, so that we can then print off that document or share that document and schedule it for an upcoming meeting to continue the review.
Well, that lets me off the hook.
Ian's going to be busy.
Yes.
Maybe I'll enlist Michelle to help me.
Yeah, you two can negotiate.
Yeah, I think so.
Ian, if it helps you, I've got the water and landfill all done.
That doesn't help in the slightest, actually.
Okay.
Is everybody good with that plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I say no?
No.
Okay, then yes.
You get outvoted.
Thank you.
Okay, continue of proposed select board rules of procedure.
Well, hopefully folks had a chance to look these over, continued from the previous meeting. Really the only major change was deleting the section we talked about last time, but I added a couple things on page 3 regarding email communications.
Okay, my
I think
only
that's fine.
I was gonna say my only comment and concern I have is about our own personal emails because they become public information. I think we should all have town emails because I certainly don't want my personal emails to start becoming part of the public,
Well, they
open
are.
meeting law.
Yeah.
Set up an account when I became a select board member.
What's that?
I set up a separate email account when I became a select board member.
I could, but it's just
I know that
too many-
it's one
too
more
many
password to
flipping
remember.
Well, you don't. So there's a couple options. If you do the town route, I think it gets pretty expensive. To add all of us in, I think is hundreds or if not thousands of dollars a year to create that account. I don't think we can just add email accounts with the way that we're set up. I might be wrong about that. Maybe Jen or Val knows. But it seems like to add in any email account that's at the town costs a lot. I don't know why it should do that. I don't know. But that's one way not to do it. The other way is to have a separate email. So if you ever run into that issue, but Michelle, I agree with you 100%. I think the select board should all have a unique email for only select board. I think we can get into a lot of trouble because they're all personal accounts, or most of ours are personal accounts.
I'm wondering if we could create like even just a general Bristol Select Board account with Gmail that we all have access to, that we could get, like if Val's going to send us something, she just sends it to that one email and it'll be up to us to check it daily or whatever. I mean, I don't know what the solution is. It's like, I really don't want my personal email account.
I mean, it will be if it's called upon and we need to look, you need to submit that.
Right,
Jen, is that true about the with Dominion? If we can't just add any old email address, we have to pay for that.
So we'd have to pay, but right now what's happened is that everybody that has a at bristolvt.org email is set up with an Office 365 account, which you guys wouldn't need. So what I don't know, and we certainly could call and ask them, is if we could just have an email with the at bristolvt.org, and if there was a charge, what would that be? I mean, because for us it's like $12.50 a month. So if we weren't gonna post 365 with the emails, but we just wanted to add emails to the account, could we do that for a cheaper price? The other thing that Sharon and I had chatted about, because I know you guys were talking about this 2 weeks ago, was we could do something through GMAVT. So you wouldn't be at bristolvt.org, but we could get 5 select board emails at gmavt.net, and those I think for extras are like they're $1 a month to host or something. Pretty cost effective to do. The other thing that might be nice is making it a somewhat kind of generic email in a sense, so that if one of you were to leave, you could relinquish your email and password, and that the new person who came on would have access to all the stuff that you've already been talking about, instead of Valerie sitting down and trying to figure out everything she needs to send to play catch up.
Yeah, that's what that was what I thought, was to have something that would just move on once one of us left, that it would go on to the next person, that you wouldn't have to have something specific.
But though no one's called Dominion Tech, but Sharon and I were chatting 2 weeks ago after you were talking about email addresses and trying to come up with a solution. And the only thing that we could easily think of was calling Telecom and asking them to set up, 5 else for you guys.
I think it would be nice to have our domain instead of the GMAVT. It keeps it cleaner by putting it all in there. Similar to what they do, it seems like if we don't go the Office 365 route, if it's just an email address, it should just be a very inexpensive add-on to be able to
Great. So,
be able to do
we'll
that.
reach out to, in the next couple of days to Dominion Tech to see if there's a way to just be
Yeah.
able to get an email that's hosted with that domain.
Yeah, and I think that's a good idea, Jen. I'd like you to do that. It should be pretty simple, and it should be a few bucks, I think, just to add those additional ones. Michelle, the idea of having a single account, I like that idea because it keeps it clean. My only issue is that I guess if the public are reaching out through a specific member and there's a reason they're doing that, you could run into issues then, because you could look back and see past emails sent or something like that. So I like the cleanliness of that and the ease of use, but then you lose if a particular person wanted to reach out to only you or only Joel or something like that, and all of us had access to that. But I don't know how to solve the problem of then passing it on. Like, do you literally make it email 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or select person 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then that passes on? Like, I do like that idea, because I remember when Val started, her getting emails from the previous administrator was very complicated and I think wasted a lot of time. And so I don't want to see that happen again when it's moved on. So I guess the first thing you have Jen check with Dominion, see what the price of that would be to add those additional emails, and then decide, and probably go with 5. And I'm happy to help set up in terms of, I know it adds email to everyone else's account, but you can do it where you forward email to a single address that you already use. The only thing would then be replying from that. You start to get complicated because you're then replying from maybe your personal account to an email that's sent. And so that gets back to having it cross-pollinated. But it's easy to add another account to whatever service you use. But I'm willing to work with people to figure that out if people need assistance with that. And maybe Joel will get Val's emails, and I'll get Joel's emails if we have a Bristol VT account for him.
I do have to say, because I'll be the one helping Mr. Bouvier with this dilemma, I guess, whatever you want to call it. So I would have to say, though, when you relinquish that email, because I know with like my Yahoo email, you have to enter a passcode from like my phone. There's no real like true password anymore. So it's like that would be my only concern, because I would be the one giving it to you, because he doesn't remember passwords to save his life. So just so in case that new email, whatever that email thing is there's not really a passcode. It's like a password or whatever.
Yeah.
Just so you're aware.
Right. A one-time use thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've seen other towns use, select persons have used the town email. So it's select boards do that. I know probably I'm sure a lot don't because of ease of use. But I think we should move towards this. I think it's a good thing to do.
They just do two-factor authentication. So Tasha, we could come up with like a secret password for him. Just to put in one.
No, because he'll never remember it. He'll never remember.
Joel can just message me and I'll help him.
Stop the hate.
He needs Face ID.
That would be helpful, actually.
It would be weird though when the account gets changed over to another person.
I only look like Joel.
And then I know that folks have different ways of being notified when they get an email message, and so I don't know how that would be set up easily for folks to, rather than having to be required to log in, every like 10 times a day or something, to the notification process of when folks get a message. How that can be.
Yeah, I think it would just be set up.
Peeker, do you log in 10 times a day?
Once a day.
That's what I was going to say. Once in the morning and once at night, maybe.
Right. Well, some folks seem to respond pretty quickly. So we suggest that there's a robust notification system somehow.
Right. Right. And I'd like to work on something sort of related, which is, and I don't know how to do this. I was thinking about a way to send reminders to committee and commission members for certain things. Like it's not that it's like a scolding thing, a reminder like, oh, you have to do the agenda or whatever. But oftentimes I post stuff on the town website for different committees, and I try to post it on Facebook and Front Porch Forum just to sort of create movement and to let people know when these meetings are to hopefully get more attendance. But oftentimes it's sort of once in a while I'm chasing down people, and I was wondering, like, is there a way to set up just automated notifications where it's not something where Jen's sending something out or Val is saying, hey, you need to do this agenda, we need to post it because we need to post it 48 hours before, but some sort of automated system to do that. Maybe Dominion Tech might know a way to do that. It's almost just like you just get this automated message just as a reminder, like, oh, the agenda is due in 2 days. And you're like, oh, right, I got to do that. Because I'm often forgetting to do agendas and different things. So I didn't know if there's something we could set up to help people, help our volunteer committee members sort of work towards getting a more consistent schedule.
That would be if we had like a town calendar with everything on it. You could have be like what's the word? Membership to a certain committee, or they were the person who got the notices.
we have a town calendar, but it's all a manual process of putting stuff in. I wanted something where I'm sure there's something out there that can do this, where it's just it'll do this automated approach where it's just ping certain people who belong to those committees just as reminders. I don't know. It would be a useful thing, but maybe I'll look into that more.
So back to the rules of procedure.
I thought we were done. I said my only concern was about the emails.
Yeah, I think everything else looks good. I mean, I think we've gone over this a couple times, and I think it looks good.
Okay, so did I.
Everybody happy? Do
you need a motion?
Do we want to adopt?
Sorry, Peter.
Did you make a motion?
I make a motion.
Okay, I'll second. I didn't hear what you said.
I will make a motion, and you will second.
That's right.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, raise your hand or signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
And are you just wanting to add into that policy about having the individualized emails too?
I don't know that needs to be in the policy. I think that was more of just an operational or discussion.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
Oh, good. Consider next steps for violation of the select board order regarding Travis Manning's dog. Is everybody up to speed on what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did we find out it was his dog? Did somebody just see him respond on Facebook and let you know?
Something like that. Actually, I came upon it by accident. Well, Sharon told me about it first. And then I just inadvertently, when I was just checking on things, I saw it. And what I was able to print is it doesn't reflect the entire thread. There's more information in the thread that's actually online.
So
it is confirmed, right, that it was his dog?
Yeah, he said it was his dog.
Okay.
He's taking his at homeward bound now?
No.
It's been returned.
He's picked it up.
He's got it back.
So we think.
The dog is still at homeward bound.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Thanks, Bruce.
So how come the dog's still at homeward bound?
I don't know.
Well, I know they're not open today. Today's Monday. They're not open today. So he probably wouldn't. They weren't open yesterday. So he would have had to come and get the dog either Saturday or he would have had to wait till tomorrow.
Huh.
When was the dog taken down to homeward bound?
Friday.
I remember now. They called Sharon and asked because they were familiar with the situation with the dog from the past, and that an order had been issued, a warrant had been issued, and that they were prepared to receive the dog last year. And they had the dog there, and they called Sharon to find out if it was okay to return the dog to Travis, if there was any restriction. And at that time,
got flagged.
I hadn't I wasn't available for Sharon to ask. So, and Sharon didn't know. So I think she said,
You mean who called was Homeward Bound called?
correct. They called Sharon to see if it was okay to release the
So the
dog.
neighbors took the dog down to Homeward Bound?
No,
No.
somebody from
Masterson's.
Masterson's Construction.
Didn't hear you. Somebody.
One of the Masterson construction employees found him
Oh.
on 116.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought there. Yeah.
And that would have been Tuesday or Wednesday. Because we talked about this on Wednesday.
Friday.
No, it was
No.
on Friday.
No, this was Friday.
What
You're losing track of time, Peeker.
Happens when you get old.
So the question is, the order from the select board's hearing said that if there was any additional violation between now and the May 15th deadline to have a confinement area constructed, that the warrant would be reissued. So
the question is, do we consider this a violation?
Well, it is a violation, right?
I have mixed feelings about this because, okay, he got out. He wasn't chasing or disturbing the neighbor who has been complaining, but he still got out.
Yes, I have a question for Bruce. Are you still on, Bruce? Could Travis get the people who took the dog to the Homeward Bound? Could he get them for stealing that dog?
No.
Okay. And then, did we have anything? Because I made the motion for May 15th. Did we have anything in it? If he goes down, pays all the fines or boarding fees or whatever you want to call them down to Homeward Bound, can he get that dog back?
He can right now, unless we tell him there's an order.
Homeward Bound to keep it?
Right.
Proof that the containment area is done?
I'm sure it's not.
No.
I mean, he's still got another month and a half.
Have we had any
done.
response from him, Belle? Any notification or contact with him?
I have not. I've not reached out to him since Friday at all. And I have received no response to the letter that was sent.
Okay. So we don't know if anything will be constructed.
There was concern that the dog was malnourished, but his excuse was the dog runs all the time.
I mean, I think
the dog runs all the time because it's not hooked.
Right. I mean, that's true, but I think he has trouble controlling it. I think if he does let it out, it just takes off. I think it is a high energy dog, but
Why wouldn't it? I mean, if you don't have a fence.
I don't know. My dogs don't go anywhere when I let them out, but we've taught them that they don't go anywhere.
Right. Well, that's it. Yeah.
Is this the dog is it a black dog?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like a black lab mix.
I'm just putting it out there. If this is the dog that they posted on March 24th on the website, that dog looks like it's very malnourished because of its hips. You can see its ribs. So
He's very skinny.
Yeah.
He is very
So,
skinny.
Just putting that out there.
Yeah, somebody else commented on that too.
So what are our options?
I think we only got one, which is what we decided at that time. If there was a violation, he gives it up.
So from this point forward, Homeward Bound will be billing us for the time that dog is there until they get a adoption?
No. If that's part of our contract with them, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, that's
we didn't bring a dog in.
No, but I'm saying if we tell them you can't give that dog back to Travis Manning, I think we're responsible for that dog. That's
Well, how is he as a stray any different than any other stray that nobody comes and claims?
well, Travis Manning may show up and claim it, and then we're telling them you can't give it, and they'll say, Town of Bristol said I can't give you this dog. Is it a stray then?
Didn't you tell one of the Wests that they had to relinquish their dog?
They had to get rid of it so that it was not in town anymore.
Oh, okay. I guess
I don't know that we told them that. I think they did that. We were gonna relinquish it and they got rid of it.
Right,
All right. Sorry. Was just
no, that's good.
Yeah.
So how does our contract with the Humane Society read? If a dog gets surrendered, does it say anything specifically to that?
Well, in a way it does, but it says that that their facility can't be used for dealing with ordinance violations. But at the same time, they were on board last year with receiving the dogs. And at that time, there were 2 dogs. They were aware of it and they were prepared to do that.
Yeah, but at that point, it's not an ordinance violation because we're making them surrender the dog. So, it's not like they have to fight with them, saying, okay, do we give it back? Do we not give it back? We're saying, no, they don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't readopt it either.
Although possibly one option is they could readopt it if the confinement area is constructed by June 15th.
I guess I'd like to know more information about if he's received the information about our suggestion for the confinement area and whether that's actually happening. I think that would be good information to have with regard to this case, because like Michelle said, yes, it is a violation, but it's not the same type of violation that's been happening with regard to those dogs. It's something else, and it could have just been an easy mistake that the dog got out, ran away, was picked up. But I think we need to know more about if he's planning to construct something to contain his dogs. If he's not, then that allows us to move forward, perhaps with a more permanent solution for the dog that's currently at Homeward Bound.
Well, and I think if he's planning on doing it, then you want some documentation that he's at least started that process.
Right, exactly.
Because he could just tell you, yeah, I'm doing it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's something where Bruce can take a look and pay a visit, perhaps, or we just need something because he has a month left now,
A month and a half.
or a month and a half.
Yeah.
Because then we have to decide if nothing happens in a month and a half, what our options are then.
But if his plan was to pick the dog up tomorrow, I won't have that. We won't have that information right away.
Yeah, that's true.
So we haven't let Homeward Bound know that if he calls or stops down to get his dog, is it to be released or not?
Well, I believe when they called Sharon, she was not aware that it was not able to be released. She was not aware of any order to not release the dog.
Maybe he figures we've taken it.
No, he responded to the Facebook posts. He confirmed that was his dog.
So we would have to notify Homeward Bound right away in the morning,
Right.
and that sort of puts them in the middle. Is that awkward?
I don't know.
Well, they would probably need to have the order in hand, is my guess. If we're going that route.
I'm tempted not to go that route. Let's say the dog got out by mistake, and yes, it's a violation, but I don't know. I think, Bruce.
Go ahead.
So, if I'm understanding correctly, you told him or he was notified if there was another violation that you would take action. If you don't take action, what message are we sending to everybody else?
Yeah. I agree with that, but it's also if the violation, and I know that a violation is a violation, but there are different kinds of violations. If the violation was still in the same arena as what's been happening with the neighbor and what we've previously discussed, I'd be much more inclined to have the dog be
The
kept.
dog was running at large as it has been in the past.
Yeah, that's true. That's
It's
true.
the same problem
Yeah,
neighbors have been
okay.
complaining about.
He just didn't happen to go to the neighbors again.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. No, you're right.
Know of.
Down,
The one thing with that though is that if Homeward Bound was not aware of it, they would not have called Sharon. We might not have known about it. I mean, I might have known about it because I get the messages on Facebook, but I might not have necessarily noticed the name. But we might not have known about this if we hadn't got that phone call. And then he would have gone and got the dog, and we would have been no wiser to the where. I mean, we do now know, but that's my dilemma.
I think.
Well, then
Bruce makes a valid point that we're using resources and time that he gets sent up there every time there's a complaint, and I can see where might be getting a little frustrated with us sitting on the fence.
I'm not necessarily getting frustrated with you sitting on the fence, but anybody else who's listening is going to see that you had indicated if this happens again, and then you don't do anything. So what makes them have to follow the recommendations or the ordinances?
I mean, Bruce makes a point there. So if Bruce had picked that dog up instead of someone from the neighborhood, he would have taken it to Homeward Bound as we directed. And so, Mr. Manning, I looked on the calendar. That dog's going to have to be at Homeward Bound, can't even be adopted for 47 days because he could go down on May 14th and say, my containment area's done. I want my dog back. Am I correct?
Now, if we're doing it to Homeward Bound, he's giving it up. We can't leave it there. We can't.
We put a date to May 15th. That's
but we can't.
If there was a violation, and
Right.
Bruce, and I agree with Bruce. Bruce is saying there's a violation, and so let's get a little backbone and do what we got to do and move on.
Is that Peaker making a motion?
I make a motion.
Yes, you
I
can.
can make a motion.
Terry's gonna make a motion.
Yeah.
Then I move we proceed with our order.
What's our order?
Second.
Okay, guys.
Our order is to seize the dog.
Reissue
It's
the
easy.
warrant.
So we can put that dog up for adoption, or we can have Homeward Bound put that dog up for adoption.
Well, I think they have to keep it for a certain period of days, but yeah. And we need to be clear that they cannot readopt. You seconded that, Ian?
I did.
I just want to make sure because we don't know if the containment area is not done yet. Number one.
Well, if it was done, the dog shouldn't have gotten out.
You ever heard of a hole in the fence or dig underneath it? We don't know.
Even if it was done, he was still running at large again.
Right.
That's the violation.
Just so I have the correct movement or whatever. So Peaker Heffernan moved to have the dog stay at Homeward Bound to be adopted by another family.
No, Peaker moved to issue a warrant to seize the dog and transfer possession and control to Homeward Bound.
That's what our order was.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you'd like, I can screen share again here. This was what the warrant to impound was back in September of last year. And I can email this and the letter, the select board's most recent order. And I can email that to Homeward Bound tonight so that they get it first thing. I don't know.
Well, won't you have to change this to the current date?
Well, I can say that at tonight's meeting, the select board made a motion to do this.
Okay.
So
Further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand.
It pains me, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does me as well.
Yeah.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
And if he responds and asks for some sort of reconsideration, I guess we'll have to cross that bridge.
What if, yeah, play that out.
he's had his chance.
He calls and said that containment area is done and Bruce verifies it. What? Bruce verified it with his set of eyes, went up there and said, yeah, it's done. It's constructed well.
You know, I'm sorry, Joel. If you got a dog that runs off, you put a leash, you put a run chain in the collar, and the dog stays home.
I agree with that, Picker, but we gave him till May 15th. If he called tomorrow and said, that thing is done, we did it this weekend, I want my dog back.
Provided
Too late.
Provided there wasn't another violation.
Right.
There's a violation.
No, it's a difficult decision to make, but
It is difficult.
It's very difficult, but I have to agree with Bruce. If we just let it slide, then what message are we sending?
Well, and it's been going on for over a year.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah.
and we've had very, very little contact with him regarding this. So
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure Sharon said that we did receive the certified mail receipt, so that the letter had been received.
good.
We ready to move on?
Yes.
We're moving. Bristol Revolving Loan Fund application for loan amendment to Vermont Tree Goods.
So we met with John Monks, and his one of his notes comes due, so he wanted to renew it and adjust the terms. So we recommend that the existing loan that has ballooned to be renewed at 3% over a term of 5 years. The balance of the loan as the end of February was a little over 30,000, and in that 5 years, based on the payment, he should have that paid off. Is my understanding.
Is that your recommendation as liaison to the revolving fund?
Yes, that's a revolving loan fund's recommendation.
Is that a motion?
Sure. Can I make a motion even though I'm not a liaison?
I'll second it.
All right, now we can have discussion again. We're going to do this one right.
Any concerns about payment schedule, things like that?
No, he's actually been really good. He says his business has been really good. And the only hard part for them is that they, it's so unique. They can't have like a website that says, this is the piece of wood I have, because, every piece of wood he has is different. Can't remember what he said. He's got 3 or 4 places where he's working out of now and filling orders, and things are moving really well. So he said things are looking really up for them.
Good.
Good.
That's great to hear.
Seconded that.
Who
Darla.
seconded?
I did.
Darla did.
So Michelle, has he ever been late or in the rear of payments?
He was like right after COVID hit, he was a little late, but he's been right up to payments the past 3 or 4 months.
And what was his initial loan, and how many years?
60.
It's on the web. Let's see.
Yeah, I got it here. Hang on a second.
50.
Was it 50?
Yep. He did 250 notes.
So he's down to 30,000 left, or the other note is not?
They're both down around, one's 30, and one's 36, I think.
How many years ago?
Well, one was 5.
So they've both been paid off by now, or pretty close.
Well, the next one comes due, I think, next year. 2023 is the maturity date for his second one.
Okay. You guys dropped it from 4% to 3%?
Right. given the interest rates right now are that lower.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
And I want you, did you guys notice that we had 2 that paid them off, or it looks like they got paid off? Honey Lights, and I can't remember who the other one was.
Oh, good.
That's great.
Yeah, Vermont
Mountain
Honey
View
Lights
Villas.
and Mountain View Villas. Looks like they paid off.
What's Mountain View Villas?
Isn't that the place down behind where Livingston's is?
Yeah, the apartments behind.
The apartment house.
Behind Craig Brown's and behind Craig Brown's.
Oh, interesting.
West Side Shop. Yeah. Livingston's.
That was from
Thought that
2016.
was
Interesting.
Green Mountain Villa.
Green Mountain Villa Road. Yep.
And Honey Lights. Wow, great. Honey Lights was from 15. Great. That's awesome.
Yeah,
great.
So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of March 1st, 15th, and 18th meeting minutes.
Ian and I gave our changes, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
I make a motion, we approve March 1st, March 15th, and March 18th with the changes submitted.
Yep.
Second.
Yep.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried. Authorize bills payable, warrants, and any liquor licenses. You have the total for the warrants, Tasha?
Yeah, 48,451.06. And I noted that she said U.S. bank payments for 3 bonds, Holly Hall, water bond, and sewer bond.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw those.
Make a motion, or we don't have to. Sorry.
No. Select board roundtable. Joel.
I had a constituent over on Elm Street ask me about, and I think they're done, but were they going to come back and repair the lawns this spring? The paving. And I said, I don't really know. So he said water's collecting between the sidewalk and the road there on his front lawn pretty good. So took a look.
Elm Street?
On Elm Street. You probably got the same call, Peter, James. And then I did notice that there's a couple of that brand new pavement about a foot off the edge of the road, or a foot in from the edge of the road, for 8-10 feet and 4 or 5 spots. It's beginning to crack right away already. Brand new pavement. Whether the edge
On
of the,
Elm Street?
on Elm and Taylor, brand new pavement. So I was wondering if Eric had any idea on that. And then I don't know if did Eric send you the email he got from ECI and Peeker to you too? I said he should
No.
you too.
Well, I don't know. I only check my emails in the morning, so.
No, it's just he sent it to me on Friday. I told him, with that kind of money, you need to talk with Valerie and Peeker as his liaison and the town administrator. He got estimates to do just some rough estimates for budget purposes only to do that sheet piling driving up on the Notch and up on Briggs Hill. And Briggs Hill is over a $250,000. So I says that's nothing. Yeah.
3 today.
You need to talk with Valerie about that. So, and he did an estimate from Carreras for block that the group looked at last year on our drive around in the upper Notch. Put 2 more layers of blocks would be to buy them from Carreras is about $7,000. They've 100 of them. So then, of course, setting them with a crane and all that in an excavator.
Oh, you set them with an excavator.
Well, I don't know. So they're pretty high. Anyway, I says here again, talk with your liaison board chair. And then I had one more thing and I can't remember what it was. Oh, Valerie, I'm reading the water district letter here that you want to send. This was May about the source protection area. Have we done any more things on tracer wire on plastic pipe in the ground? Have we done any more on our ordinances?
Not
We're going to cheapen up this water system and stop putting copper in the ground. And we're going to start putting plastic. And it's going to be chaos around here in the next 25 years because we don't seem to have any ordinance that says you got to have a tracer wire with plastic.
It's going to take a little time to update the ordinance, but in the meantime, for any future permits or authorizations that get issued, the written conditions are going to be explicit, including communications, tracer wire, all that stuff.
Okay.
And we're updating the, at least coordinating with Chris Purley on updating some of the application forms to also make things much more explicit.
Okay. So, all right. Okay, good. I'm glad we're doing something because we're building more houses on North Street and there's going to be coming one to my brother's old place here. You're going to get notified pretty soon on that. And
right.
I still think we're making a wrong. I want to make this statement and I hope there's 50 people watching. I think we need to go with copper pipe. I'm sorry, Mr. Efferman, you disagree with me, but from the curb stop to the house, we don't own it, but we own the water in it. And the homeowner, if it starts leaking, doesn't really have a care because it doesn't go through their meter yet, then I think we ought to make them put copper pipe in. We are cheaping up our water system by not putting copper and putting plastic in.
Well, I'll tell you right now, if there's an issue with plastic, they're not going to have water. It's not like copper where you get a pinhole or a hole and you lose water. When you get a break with plastic, you don't have water. It's that simple.
Well, I wish we'd go back to copper. Anyway, that's all I have.
All right. Darla.
I don't have anything this evening.
My goodness. Michelle.
Couple things. Val, and I don't know if you know the answer to this. What do we know about the retail cannabis statute and how that's going to affect us? You know, whether it can come in, can't come in, how much control we have. Do we know anything about that? I know the question is already pushed.
Yeah, the legislature and the committee that's been appointed, they're still working out the rules. And I believe that there is some consideration about a new bill where it's not what the towns have to opt in, but they can opt out. Because right now the advisory votes were whether municipalities wanted to opt in. So I think things are still in flux, but it's not something I've been watching very closely.
Well, yeah, I wasn't sure if they were going to allow the town to maintain control, whether they could, you know, actually come into the town and do retail sales or not.
There needs to be a vote.
Passed a resolution this year to offer retail cannabis, so I wasn't sure how that was working.
Right, and then it's my understanding that if for towns that opted in, it wasn't going to be an option until this committee had set some rules, and I believe that the municipalities would be required to enact certain requirements, but I'm not familiar with the details.
Okay. I have a question. Well, first let me ask, are we doing the bus drive around?
That was the last
little tour
That's what I was going to ask.
this year?
I think it would be worthwhile. It was done in June last time.
Well, that was because of COVID, but but I didn't know if it was going to be something that we were going to plan on doing. So
we all get our shots.
Mine's scheduled for April 6th.
April 28th.
So the other question I have is on other business. There's a letter from the Vermont Housing Finance Agency about the Firehouse Apartment project. And I was trying to understand that and figure out what are those credits or what does that mean to the town of Bristol?
Nothing.
It doesn't. So I was trying to figure out why we got the letter then.
Perhaps we're an adjoiner. I really don't know why we got the letter. I've not seen one like that before.
Well, it's talking about the tax credits. So it's like tax credits represent about 15.19% of the estimated tax credit ceiling. So I was just like, well, what does that mean? Okay. That's all I got.
Okay. Ian.
The park water fountain. will that be maintained and operational this year?
I don't see why it won't be. I mean, we didn't last year because we didn't want kids playing around it because of COVID. And I would think if things are straightened out by May, we should be able to get it going. I don't think I'd want to start it much before that.
I would say June, because I think people are still going to be getting shots in May.
So you want to shoot for June 1st?
And that's if Mr. Clark's willing to even do it, because he's the one that was maintaining it.
When do we usually do it?
As soon as it stops freezing.
Usually it's done before Memorial Day. Yeah, Ian.
I think we should stick to that schedule. It's no more a draw than the playground or any other area. I just hate to see it sort of sitting out there unkempt, and as it was last year. I received a number of questions about it. So I'd like to get that, if the gentleman is willing to service that again this year, that would be fantastic. But I'd like to get that operational.
I can reach out to him and ask him if he's willing to do it this year. And if he's not, I can ask his trusted assistant if he's willing to do it.
Okay, that sounds great.
That was, I think when he was gone, my brother-in-law did it. So I will ask him. If Alan's not, I'll ask my brother-in-law and see.
Okay, that would be great. I think that was it for me. Yeah.
I got a call on Saturday that told me I should take a look at the Lincoln Road, and went up, and just below Circle Current, we've lost about 20 to 30 feet of our river cribbing. And then there's that spot further up that we looked at up by Eagle Park that was never fixed. So I think at some point this summer, we're going to have to get somebody in there and take care of those two spots. The one just north of Circle Current, if the water gets in behind it, it's going to make a mess. And I didn't have a chance to get with Eric today. I was going to take him up and show him, so he was aware of it as well.
What did you call it?
The river cribbing, or the bank shoring.
Okay. It sounded like you said criving, and I was like, I didn't know what that was.
He did say cribbing.
Oh, I thought he said cribbing at first, and then I was like, well, it sounded like criving. So,
Large rock between the road and the river, Tasha.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to put that instead.
Didn't I read something that the Conservation Commission was working on Eagle Park, or I feel like I read in their minutes or something like that.
The fishing platform.
We're working on the fishing platform.
Yeah.
Okay.
That one of the storms last year that got disrupted.
Right.
That'll be next agenda too. Next April.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had talked to Kristen and told her she should talk to Donnie Sargent, because apparently before Pete Domenico passed, he had talked to Pete. Pete and Donnie had talked about different options of what to do there rather than the platform, because he said that's a bad design.
Oh boy, a lot of money spent there.
Yeah.
More to come.
All right, administrators report.
I have nothing to add to the written report.
Correspondence reports. Correspondence received.
Can I just add one quick reminder that taxes are due Monday, April 5th?
What?
Just throwing that.
When did this all happen?
And that our office door will be open all day on Friday the 2nd and all day on Monday the 5th to accept in-person payments for those people that want to come in and get a receipt.
Or pay cash.
Or pay cash.
And dog registrations are due April 1st.
Correct.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Sorry, I just wanted to add that before the end.
No,
since-
that's That's good, because
Jen.
it's close. All right, executive session?
For which, are we doing both personnel and contract?
I don't think we have, we didn't do any contract stuff for executive.
All right, I'll make a motion. We enter into executive session to discuss personnel per 1 VSA section 313.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried.
I take it back. There is a little bit of contract stuff, a little bit, related to the West Street project.
For personnel and contract stuff.
Right. So, thank you.
You got that, Tasha?
It's on the agenda.
You're lucky I didn't get out of my document so I could undo the deleting. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks.
All right, thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.